I thought, once again, I thought, no, he didn't actually, right? Bobby Kennedy, HHS. I texted Dr. Redlener.
No, when I said Bobby Kennedy, you're like,
Yeah. And
good morning, Chris.
And Representative Garcia lost both of his parents to COVID.
Yes,
so
I know.
He has a dog in this fight.
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
David tweets, fingers crossed, guys, Captain Crunch might finally get to run the Navy as God intended. Okay, is there any...
How about Captain Obvious?
Is there any joke that's too ridiculous for... Who? What?
Captain Obvious.
Captain Obvious, yeah.
I'm for Captain Crunches if he can bring the Crunch Berries as sailors. Want to do a new reason someone's not listening?
Oh.
Now, some people tune out because Chris is too cheery.
Right.
Other people tune out because I'm crying too much or something. Patricia said, this week Stephanie went off the deep end. I cannot listen to you. Stephanie, you began crying Monday, and by Thursday you were hysterical laughing about Trump appointees. So I can't cry or laugh.
Nope. Yeah.
All emotions are hereby barred, or that's it.
You need to be an even keel like Thom Hartmann, Stephanie.
Young lady.
Just like the same all the time.
Okay. Isn't it a defense mechanism? Don't we have to laugh? Or seriously, I would just be crying for 4 years, weeping silently in the fetal position.
This shirt you're wearing is the one I wear to bed every night. Not the same one, but one that's similar.
Oh, the WTF Donnie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the Nope, Not Again t-shirt, but you know what? I'm going to save that for 4 years from now when he runs again. Because he's already said, Dan Goldman's trying to pass a resolution that he can't run again.
No more Kings Act.
Right, and said it like 15 times, because that's what he does. He says, oh, it's a joke, and then he just keeps repeating it till it gets normalized, until they're like, 22nd Amendment. So I'll be able to use all my T-shirts again, which is one other silver lining, Patricia. I'm sorry.
I think I still have I'm sorry about our president shirt.
Oh, I was going to wear one of my vaccine shirts, since those are all going to be outlawed soon, along with the actual vaccine. Maybe just like get some welcome back measles, polio shirts.
Smallpox.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay, hold on. I'm just fixing my box. Okay.
Chris has a weird look on his face.
No, I mean, he in the past few days, he has been clear that he doesn't want to ban vaccines. He just wants to eliminate mandates.
Has he? Now, will there be hearings of any kind, and will he bring the whale head and also the dead bear cub?
Oh, and the dog carcass that he ate?
Ah, that's right. No, Kristi Noem will supply that, presumably.
And Jared Polis had a point yesterday when he said that, he wants to get rid of like a whole bunch of additives in foods and stuff like that.
No, that's good.
Oh,
right.
Abby Phillip, thank you. Can I have 16? Yes. Abby must listen to the show. Hi, Abby. Thanks for listening. Because did I bring this up?
We like her.
We do. I think she's amazing.
We all believe in eating better. You know who else believed in eating better and exercising a little bit?
Interestingly enough, there was another person who many years ago tried to raise concerns about the health of the food that we feed our children and our families. And here's the reception that she received.
When I heard this, I thought, get your damn hands off my fries, lady. If I want to be a fatty and shovel French fries all day long, that is my choice.
We're going to have, the government fining us if we use salt. Coming up straight ahead, all this talk about the government taking salt away from you because it's so bad for you. But aren't there good things about salt?
It melts ice.
But wait, there's more.
I hate the government getting involved and telling me what to eat and not
Food
to eat.
police. Do you think the government should regulate the ingredients in the food we eat?
Can't we make our own decision about whether or not we want to salt our food?
All right, an Obama government obesity task force. Does every American family need a dietitian appointed by the government to tell them that this food is going to make you fat and this food is not?
Make America healthy again. But that's pretty retro. I mean, Michelle Obama was actually responsibly, to be clear, talking about what we feed our children, what's in our food lunches, whether or not our nutrition standards are up to the modern age, given the obesity rates in this country.
But now it's okay.
Yes, there's absolute hypocrisy from the far right.
Oh, I'm
pundits.
sorry. You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
now with
whalehead,
it's
getting
fine.
rid of artificial.
I'm with him on corn syrup and artificial colors and all.
Like
I'm with him on that.
Like in Canada, they use like beet juice for colorants instead of artificial. And
you know what else?
It tastes just as
you
good.
know what else beets is in borscht? Get used to it, as we mentioned yesterday.
In the camps.
Oh, I'm sorry, Patricia. I laughed again. I'm sorry.
Stop
Okay.
doing that, Stephanie.
Why can't you be like that nice Thom Hartmann?
Or that nice Rita Rudner.
People tuning out willy-nilly because either Chris is right or Chris is wrong. Chris is right and I'm an idiot. Chris is wrong. Can't listen anymore. I'm laughing. I'm crying.
Chris is right t-shirts still outsell Chris is wrong t-shirts.
Well, let's correct that, shall we, people? Okay, where was I?
I have no idea.
Oh, speaking of CNN.
Oh, and they tell me I should
Speaking
shut
of
up.
CNN, did you see this, Chiron? People hoping to see their grocery streets go down may have to brace for the exact opposite once Trump starts his second term.
Shocker.
Here's what's going on. Greg Proops just went, you. That might have been good to inform voters of before the election. Okay. Yes, had he been talking about that at all, Donald Trump, all he was talking about is literally boogity brown people. Oh, this is funny. This is with the movie scene. Don't think she's coming back. Jill Stein voters waiting for her to show up and help Gaza. Yeah, I don't
think she's coming back.
Hello? Is anyone out there? Anyone at all? No, she's a, what's it called? Cicada?
Cicada.
Cicada, yeah. She's underground again for 4 years till Russia.
I thought it was 7 for Cicada. I forget.
Oh,
What?
4 years for a presidential election.
Oh, okay.
I just like this one. Elon Musk sounds like a cheap cologne you bought at Walgreens when you were 15. Thank you, Stuart. It's true. I use Jovan.
Javon Musk?
Oh,
Right next to
you know
English
what?
leather.
Speaking of
Drakkar Noir.
Speaking of many in my life disappointments, I've had a bad
Life?
Life?
Hot Frosty, which you recommended once again.
Was it
Chris
good?
wrong on Netflix?
I've never seen
There was
it.
no snowman
Junk?
thing of any kind. There was no snow sex. I was
He
promised.
was turned into a man.
Okay,
I was
she
told
puts a
that there was
scarf.
a
All right,
little bit of.
spoiler alert. She puts a scarf on him, turns him into a real man. Okay,
I
but
was told there was nudity in it.
no,
No?
not
Are you
really.
sure?
He has a 12-pack. I mean, he's hot, but
Did you see his butt?
I don't remember.
I'd remember.
She doesn't look for
I don't.
butt.
There was
I
no.
remember
I
that.
don't know. He looked like he was melted and dead, but then came back to life and was a real man. But But there was no snow sex.
It's like Pinocchio.
There was no snow blowing.
He becomes a real man because of the love that they had for each other.
I don't.
Is that it?
understand.
He becomes a real boy.
Listen, any mental port in a storm during this period.
Now I want
was
to watch it.
It's on Netflix.
I know. Now I want to watch
Lacey
it.
Chabert was.
And the other thing I learned is Allison Janney is in every single
She
television show and movie that has ever been made.
I was at
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
I was at Disneyland on Tuesday, and she was a part of the Star Tours ride.
Of course she was.
Like, that's
plays-
Allison Janney.
She plays the vice president in Diplomat, which I watched
Okay.
the entire series.
Ooh,
last
I hear
night
that's amazing.
after Frosty.
I hear the
Frosty-
Diplomat's
or
amazing.
whatever the movie was that I watched on Netflix. What?
I hear the Diplomat's amazing.
It is amazing. Kerry Russell's great. Allison Janney plays the vice president.
think Kerry Russell's hot?
spoiler alert. I will tell you, but Allison Janney plays the vice president. Okay.
I think Kerry Russell's hot.
She
That's why
is.
you
Yeah,
watch
she is
it.
hot.
Okay.
She
is.
swears a lot in that series. She's a big potty mouth, a lot of F-bombs.
Atta
It's
girl.
fantastic. Yeah, she plays the United States ambassador to England. It's fantastic. Where was I?
I have no idea.
I'm just going to
We're going
off.
on Netflix
You're-
stuff.
Do you
You're
think
like
that's
bouncing
Did you
around
watch
from
Disclaimer?
topic to topic.
Start wandering around just aimlessly. I'm
Just like we did
gonna be
on
like
stage.
Clyde. Jody's gonna be turn my head back. Oh, here, there's
Yeah.
the microphone.
Oh,
Hi.
you'll be like Carl Frisch, Bob Seska, and me on
Yes,
stage
yes.
at Sexy
Yes.
Liberal, just wandering.
Yes.
By
By the way, I heard Bob Seska say on the fantastic Bob Seska show, which I never miss a minute of, that he said, "I wish I could bottle that Sexy Liberal show last Saturday." Why? You can't you, Chris?
Sure.
He said, "I wish I could bottle that and just take a drink of it to just re-energize
energy,
myself."
Yes, you can still relive the energy by going to sexyliberal.com and getting the pay-per-view.
Yes, those same hilarious, smart,
2024.
moral people are still out there fighting the good fight, and it'll help re-energize you. It's hilarious that all that still remains true. I know it's like, oh, it's going to be too sad.
No, and also, by the way, no more Sexy Liberals right before a presidential election.
Oh yes, you blame me for the election
Well,
because I had
way
a
to go,
Sexy Liberal
2016.
tour. Thank you.
Way to
You
go.
know, way to
Yeah.
go, Stephanie.
Yeah, it's either that and my Andor crying, Andor laughing, or something, or Chris's cheeriness, or wrongness, Andor rightness, or something.
I'm right more than I'm wrong.
By the way, we are so
You're adorable.
We are such in a good space right now for those notes for those to whom it may concern letters.
Please send more.
We're in a super duper headspace.
Please send more.
Find out everything that's wrong with me in the show. Okay. There's that. What's it? Janice in Sacramento. I'm going to need some love.
All right.
Yeah. Steph, so many people have been talking this week about disinformation. I wanted to add, I fully agree that is one of, if not the biggest problems for us. Literally everyone I know who voted for Trump listens to Fox. They think January 6th was a bunch of tourists, that Trump never said there are fine people on both sides of Charlottesville. When I told them women have died because of abortion bans, they do not believe me. They said that's just fear-mongering. It feels to me, at least, like some of it is willful ignorance, but the mechanism allowing them to block out reality is there in Fox and other right-wing media. The right-wing knows if people understood the facts, they would lose a huge amount of support. Combating this has got to be the main long-term goal of the Democratic Party. Thank you, Janice. That's why we're here to serve. Oh, Kelly was here for
Kelly
LA
was
Sexy.
there, yes.
Oh, yes. She said, I wish I could bottle the night in LA. You can. And also, we're doing it. DC Sexy Liberals. So there, January 18th.
The Women's March is the same day.
Yes, it's the same day. If you're coming in for the march, my big sister's coming in for the march.
Does everybody have to pull out their hats again? Their pink
hats?
crocheted hats?
Sure, if you want to.
If you still have them, yes.
All right.
Oh, hang on a second.
I'm doing it again, too.
My right-wing Twitter guys. Hang on.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, because Thom,
We love Thom.
Yeah. He said, see you at the inauguration, ditch licker.
See, now he wants to
adorable.
he wants to sex you.
So he can knock the books out of my hands at the inauguration.
Yes,
he
wants to sex you.
You can go
He
yourself.
does want to sex her.
Tell you what, you can go yourself, pencil.
I'll
be back in the hotel room
Pinky.
having sex with your mother.
Pinky.
He's flirting with you.
He is totally flirting with you.
That is totally flirting, Stephanie.
Like a 6-year-old, but still he's flirting.
Uh-huh.
Keep pointing out to him, had a lot.
He has a pinky one.
Had a lot hotter ditch than you.
Pinky
Okay,
one.
what?
He has a pinky one.
Sure. Where was I? Oh, Kelly said, I wish I could bottle the night in LA with you and dear Francis and Angela. I got to hug Adam Schiff and Chris. I called DirecTV this week, said I will not fund CNN, Fox any longer. So they changed my plan. Now I get free speech TV. I will start supporting you and Frangela and Seska with what I'm not putting toward mainstream media who failed us. Love you, Mama. Thank you, Kelly House. Viva la Resistance. Thank you for supporting the step. I said Viva la Resistance.
Vive.
Viva la...
Vive.
What?
Viva la Resistance, Kelly House.
Vive.
Oh.
Thank you.
Wow.
You support the
Interesting
Stephanie Miller
out of the gate this morning.
cinematic universe.
You're
That's
just
how,
like bouncing around from thing to thing today. What's going on?
Like a pinball.
a little
Yeah.
pinball machine.
Like a pachinko machine.
Oh, it's a love tweet. Joan said, husband, what are you listening to? Me, Stephanie. Husband, you're always listening to Stephanie. Doesn't she ever run out of things to say? Me, never. She's Stephanie. All right. See? Some people are in the let me talk. Some people are in shut them up. Stephanie camp. Whichever camp you're in. Welcome.
It's your show. You can talk all you want.
Some right-wingers just tune in to watch me cry, so that's fine.
They hate
too.
watch you.
Well, as long as you write it down
There you
In
go.
your journal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Make a note of it.
Uh-huh.
What? Hey, there's another headline. Muslim voters in Michigan are starting to regret their choice after Trump wins. Trump is playing us.
Shocker.
Let me bring You know, people are comparing it to his Brexit. There was almost instant regret in England. Like, wait, what did we vote for? Uh-huh. Someone was like, I didn't round. Why do I have to find out too? Because
Exactly.
now we're all in the car with drunk Toonses. Good job. It's not only a cat that's not qualified to drive. He's drunk. We're in the back seat. Maya May says, if you feel like your brain is short-circuiting right now, yes.
Computer says yes.
Yes, Maya. It's probably because you're trying to resist the absolute hurry of the incoming administration is trying to shove down your throat. Your brain knows what's normal, and this ain't it. Do whatever you need to ground yourself. Chris goes on the roller coaster. I go on my bicycle or hiking with friends.
Jody walks.
Jody walks to Bakersfield and back every day.
Uh-huh.
I'm barely kidding.
Over the grapevine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's chilly right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's snow.
Do what you love with who you love. Recharge, right? Heal, rise. Okay. We have Glenn Kirshner. I think he might have thoughts about
Everything?
Attorney General Rapey McForehead.
Here's what I think about all of that. I think that there's going to be the big fight with Rapey McForehead and with
RFK.
No,
Whalehead, brainworm.
No, who's the other one?
Oh, Hegseth.
No, Tulsi.
Tulsi Gabbard. Those are going to be fights.
Big fight with those two, and those are going to be so big that the others will pale by comparison.
Yeah, because she will completely
those will
destroy our national security. You mean that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think
also,
RFK
there's new
is gonna
sexual
sail
assault
through.
allegations against Pete
That came out.
He likes to nominate rapists.
Yeah.
Well,
Or alleged
Sexual
rapists.
assaulters.
okay,
Alleged.
we're late.
Oh, yeah, we are. Wow. 22 minutes.
I tried to stop her 2
I'm a
minutes.
pin.
I came across a meme that said the following. Black Monday, January 20th, 2025. All women, LGBTQ+, BIPOC, immigrants, we wear black to mourn the loss of life that is coming. We wear black for the loss of our right. We do not shop. We do not go to work. We do not send our kids to school. We do not buy gas the day before, the day of, or the day after. We do not contribute. We protest in our cities and towns as we are attending a funeral, ! How is that productive? That is not doing anything but teaching the next generation to hate, which is the opposite of what a liberal should be promoting. And don't put gas in your car. Want to contribute to what? The economy? Okay. If you're that quote unquote liberal, why are you even driving a car that takes gasoline? Shouldn't you be driving an electric vehicle? I'm just saying.
It's hard to do a cartoon on Trump because I always say it's like being married to a nymphomaniac. It's fun at first, but then it's just like a fire hose of craziness, and so it becomes hard to do cartoons on it a lot. I mean, I'm trying my very best, but you know, it's weird.
That escalated quickly, and that's, as you know, if you've read my tweets, which you have, I'm not offended. That was very funny.
I'm worried about Steve Bannon because the man looks like an alcoholic Thom. Have you seen this guy? He looks like a sack of pus that developed rickets. He looks like gout that caught gout. The man does not look well. Yeah, that's Steve Bannon, the one who was arrested on a Chinese billionaire's yacht and indicted by a federal grand jury for wire fraud and money laundering because he was ripping off Trump supporters donating to his Build the Wall campaign, and then Trump pardoned him for ripping off his own MAGA faithful. I'm just worried because Steve Bannon looks like a guy who was up watching porn till 6:45 a.m. and his alarm was set for 7. He looks like the guy in the office that HR has to physically give a deodorant stick to after one too many coworker complaints. He looks like a diseased leprechaun freebasing in the Port Authority bus terminal men's room. But we need to put aside our petty differences and recognize that this is clearly a fellow human being who is in pain. Can we do that? Because he looks like the guy in the zombie movie who doesn't want the other survivors to know he got bit.
Listen, Mrs. Kirshner over here just totally gave her stamp of approval. She knows he's hot, or she wouldn't be Mrs. Kirshner. She knows what's up. You've been locked up. Tell us about that. Tell us about your hard time. Tell us about your hard time, Glenn.
Oh, look, I grew up a gutter kid in Jersey. In Jersey, right? Born in Brooklyn.
So
I escaped, but I only escaped across the river. I grew up in Jersey. Right. My pop was a high school football coach. I often say my dad coached at and got kicked out of every respectable high school football program in New Jersey. And so, you know, I had run-ins with the law. I got locked up for dumb stuff, doing stuff I shouldn't have done. Never convicted.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when I applied, you know, first I was in the Army.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to become a federal prosecutor. And so I had to fill out all the paperwork for the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
And they're going and everything seems to be looking good. And they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Hold on now. All right. So you became a lawyer to get out of illegal. You did. Okay. Quickly, on behalf of myself and my listeners, thank you for your loyalty to President Biden.
Yes.
It did not go unnoticed. And I also, this is inappropriate, but I speculated that I think sometimes you may withhold marital affection from Joe until he gets back in line. And we also appreciate your service
Miller.
Your service to America, because I feel like the next day he's back in line.
I can just say that I love my Joe.
Yes.
There you go.
Good. That's all you have to say.
There, that's all you got to say.
We love him too, particularly when you keep him in line.
Aw, he's the best.
Pinball.
You are a pinball.
Right.
You're not the machine, you're the pinball.
Dead brainworm guy. What?
You're the ball, not the machine.
To my point, Palm Reader tweets, voting for Trump was U.S. Brexit. Russia flooded the UK with disinformation, racism, and populism, and low information voters believed it, and Google searched, what will Brexit do after it passed? Russia followed the same playbook, but if the mainstream media had done its job, different outcome. Yeah, thanks for the story about how Trump's going to make inflation worse. Now! CNN. Glenn Kirshner next.
Hi, I'm Matt Gaetz, former congressman and distinguished statesman. Can you believe the deep state totally canceled me just because I'm a patriot who likes to party? Does that suck ass or what? This is my new podcast, and you haters can laugh all you want because I allegedly brought a somewhat underage chick across state lines. But guess what that means? I get to do my time in a federal pen, not a state pen, because those are like totally ghetto. So I'm doing this podcast because the accusations against me are the greatest miscarriage of justice since a bunch of Black Lives Matter thugs attacked our Capitol on January 6th, disguised as white Trump supporters. So a lot of haters want to talk about how my dad bought me my seat in Congress, or how I got busted with a DUI driving my dad's BMW, or how I wore a gas mask in the House, or how I falsely claimed that Obamacare caused the opioid crisis, or how I voted against the Equality Act, or how I was the only person in Congress to vote against the Sex Trafficking Act, blah, blah, blah. As Mr. Trump said many times, you only hate me because I'm so Christian, you punk ass. But they also say I'm a racist because I brought a Holocaust denier to the State of the Union address. Okay, let's address that. Number one, I did not bring a Holocaust denier. I brought a Holocaust skeptic. And that's like a totally different thing. Stop calling me a bigot. It's totally gay. Okay, let's do some fan mail. Dear Matt, you're awesome, bro. MAGA, how is prison? Signed, Jill. Dear Jill, thanks for writing. You did not enclose a photograph in your letter, which indicates to me that you are at best a 6. but I'll answer your letter anyway. Prison sucky, okay? When I came here, they wouldn't let me bring my own pomade into the jail. So I have to buy some homemade prison pomade from the Aryan gang, and those guys won't even tell me what's in it. I mean, it works. It's sticky. The worst part is that for some reason President Trump hasn't responded to any of my phone calls or letters or emails. So I've started this new GoFundMe. It's Tell Donald Trump that Matt Gaetz is in jail and it totally sucks and he needs help at GoFundMe.com. Please tell Mr. Trump that I really need his help. I know he has my number. And so does Don Jr. And so does Eric. And so does Laura. And that douche Jared. Mr. Trump, please get me out of here. I know you can help me. Don't you remember all those good times we had? All those awesome photos I showed you on my phone on Air Force One? Gaetz with a Z. You remember? I'm the guy you kept thinking was your son, Barron? Please. Anyway, I gotta go. Subscribe and give us a good review. And I want to thank Jim Jordan for always standing by me. Thank you, Jim. I knew you would never look the other way. And I also want to thank God and shit. Peace out, bitches.
Good morning, Glenn Kirshner.
Good morning, Steph.
You know, you tweeted or threaded, justice matters to me, justice matters to us. If it didn't, I wouldn't be so angry when we experience injustice. Our anger proves the point that justice does matter. If we give up belief, that guiding principle, then we'll have lost all hope of repairing what's broken. This obviously has been bumpy ever since the election. I have to say, Glenn, I've defended you and other legal analysts a couple times because people, I'm sure you've seen this, people go, oh, they were wrong about everything. Well, we never expected we were founded on no one is above the law in this country. Pardon you and all the other legal experts for living in a world where we actually are a nation of laws, not men. But we're not there. We're not there anymore.
Yeah, every time Trump does something lawless or the Republicans support him in doing something lawless, it turns out I was wrong because what I do, Steph, every damn day is I explain how the law is intended to work. And the fact that Donald Trump seems to be above the law, seems to be Teflon, does it make me wrong? Yeah, because I predict that someday the law will rise up, will be prodded into wakefulness, and will apply to Donald Trump the way it applies to you, me, and everybody else. So I will cop to being wrong, but you know what? I'll never stop explaining how it's supposed to work because someday it's going to come back, Steph.
Yeah.
Was it easy for the folks in World War II, the soldiers, when they were fighting this same sort of, coming dictatorship? No, it wasn't. And it's not going to be easy for us, but we're going to keep fighting.
Yeah. I mean, Glenn, by the way, you were on the defending Merrick Garland to a degree for a while, saying he got appointed late and a lot of, obstruction, blah, blah, blah. But oh my God, Glenn, I gotta wonder how he felt yesterday about dropping the case against Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
Who apparently is going to replace him.
And that's why at some point I said, listen, Merrick Garland was a good man. I believe he is a good man. Right. But it turned out he was the wrong man for the moment. And I've been saying this for well over a year or longer because he did not aggressively go after the folks who tried to end American democracy. And this is where we have landed because of it.
Yeah. Now Trump is going to pardon them all. I mean, here's the thing. I have no patience with people that pretend to be surprised. It's like he told you he's going to do all this. Everyone's now like, is he really going to? Oh, my God. It's like, yes. I mean, the ethics report. I mean, obviously, who is it? John Cornyn said, in a normal world, he said, what is it? Yes, John Cornyn said he does not think there should be any limitations on the committee's vetting process for Matt Gaetz, and the highly damaging ethics report should be released to them. And obviously the committee has the power to release it, but of course there's Jim Jordan going, nope, that shouldn't be released. Is there even going to be a vetting process, or is he going to just get a recess appointment? I mean, because now Thune seemed open to recess appointments yesterday already after he said he wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, Steph, there were about 12 questions packed into your one question there. And
No. Everything's very dense.
Oh, she's been like a pinball machine this morning, Glenn.
She's been the pinball in the machine all morning.
It's all balled up into one dictatorial mess right now, and we have to kind of pull it apart.
Yes.
But listen, Matt Gaetz is unqualified. He's a hack. He's dangerous. And I actually think this was a bit of a ploy to try to give him cover so he can say, I'm going to be nominated to be AG. I have to resign from Congress right now. Well, guess what, Steph? Marco Rubio was nominated for a cabinet position. He didn't resign. Stephanie Naffa, what the hell's her name? Elise Stefanik was nominated. She didn't instantly resign.
Of course, to outrun the ethics report. I mean,
Gaetz instantly resigned to try to bury the ethics report, but it will see the light of day. I just don't think Matt Gaetz' nomination will continue to see the light of day. He'll withdraw at some point when, the ethics report has been buried in that way. The Senator Cornyns of the world won't get to see it. All of these games that are being played by Donald Trump are just distractions. But here's the thing. I think because of the disarray right now inside the Republican Party, particularly in the Senate, because Trump is appointing dangerous hacks, people who will do affirmative damage to the American people, the Senate is not going to go into recess. The Senate is going to hold confirmation hearings, and they're going to be ugly, and that is exactly what we need.
I mean, Trump basically, his first order is make yourself, useless, invisible, no more advise and consent. I mean, interestingly, the attorney for the alleged victim of Matt Gaetz's sexual misconduct is asking for the release of the report. He said Mr. Gaetz's likely nomination as Attorney General is a perverse development in a truly dark series of events. He noted his client was a high school student and there were witnesses to Gaetz's alleged crime. Can you explain to me why Merrick Garland dropped these charges? I understand Joel Greenberg and the actual victim, but as you always say, generally witnesses are not like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They're the other people, involved in whatever the perpetrator's involved in. So I don't get it, because his own girlfriend got him for, I think, witness tampering or something, implicated him, didn't she?
Yeah, I am no longer behind the curtain at DOJ. I was for decades, so I would have a firsthand understanding of the evidence and why it is DOJ dropped the charges. But, what I do know, I dealt with lots and lots of really challenging witnesses over the years, even victims. Let me just analogize to domestic violence victims.
Yeah.
Sometimes they refuse to participate in the process that would result in them being protected from the abuser. Sometimes I had to fight with them, figuratively speaking, just to convince them to protect themselves. The same is true in sex trafficking cases when you have 16 and 17-year-old victims who sometimes refuse to participate with prosecutors. And if a victim won't ultimately get on the stand and tell the truth, well, then you can't use them to try to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Plus, the marquee cooperator, Joel Greenberg, was as ugly as a cooperator gets. And you can't put an untrustworthy cooperating witness on the stand. So it may be that the evidence just couldn't quite get to proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and they said, we can't do it.
Yeah. So in the now warning stack, John Bolton said, I don't think either Tulsi or Matt Gaetz ought to have a confirmation hearing until they both had full field FBI investigations. Shocker. Who's going to be in charge of the FBI, do we think?
Yeah, right.
Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said, I think, given the Russian propaganda that she's espoused over the past period of time, I think she's a serious threat to our national security. I think Republican senators should reject both of them. He worked under this guy. Like, what illusions is he still living under that any of that's going to happen? I mean, Lindsey Graham, at first was skeptical of Matt Gaetz, and in 2 seconds, even for Lindsey Graham, said, he ought to give Matt a chance. I mean, they know how unqualified he is beyond everything else, right?
Yeah, and Donald Trump will continue to overplay his hand, and he will force the senators. I mean, I think, Thune being designated as the majority leader is a good thing because Rick Scott would have been the worst possible pick. I actually believe, and people are going to yell at me for continuing to be naive, that there are some senators who will refuse to endanger the lives of their own constituents with guys like Matt Gaetz and Kennedy. They're going to change the name of the Department of Health and Human Services to what? The Department of Brainworms and Bear Claws? I have no idea under Kennedy. But no, I actually think some of these senators will say, I will not kill my constituents by either waiving my right to provide advice and consent or by voting in favor for these people who will do affirmative damage to the American people.
I'm sure you saw this headline. Top MAGA lawyer Mike Davis warns of civil war if Trump is sentenced in New York. To the 34 felonies he was convicted of. He said if Merchan doesn't declare a mistrial on November 19th, Trump will be sentenced on November 26th. So let's ask Judge Merchan this. Does he really think he's going to send the president-elect of the United States to Rikers Island instead of letting the American people send President Trump back to the White House? I'm not advocating for this, but is he looking for civil war?
That's right. That's right. When you want to continue to act in a lawless way, threaten violence. And that's what these idiots are doing. And it's irresponsible, but it's also transparent. Save the dear leader at all costs.
So what do you think is going to happen with Judge Merchan?
I'm sorry to say, I got to call it the way I see it. I don't think he's going to be sentenced because Judge Merchan is going to rule that, no, I'm not dismissing this case based on presidential immunity when he committed most of his crimes before he was even president, and the ones he committed while in the Oval Office were not official acts. Then what happens is Trump's lawyers immediately appeal it, and everything gets stayed, including it gets paused, including the sentencing. That's what I think will happen. But frankly, I hope Judge Merchan moves on to sentence him and then just stay execution of the sentence. What does that mean? It means I'm sentencing you to prison, but we'll go ahead and pause that sentence from starting until you run through the appeal process. Let it hang over his head.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing. Justice is coming, but it's like when your first Uber cancels and then also your second one, and then the one that says it was 2 minutes is now 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's coming. Okay, you also threaded time for Jack Smith to indict Trump co-conspirators like Rudy, Sidney Powell, John Eastman, and others. So are we going to see the Jack Smith report? Is this going to at least be public?
I think we're going to see, just like we saw the Mueller report, we're going to see the Jack Smith report. There's going to be a lot in there that we haven't seen before because now the priority is documenting all of Donald Trump's crimes, putting it in the public square. So Donald Trump can't order Matt Gaetz to destroy all the evidence that Jack Smith has accumulated during his investigation. And I remain convinced that he really should indict the unindicted co-conspirators because, Steph, if he doesn't, guess what? The statute of limitations expires, and the people who helped Donald Trump try to steal the 2020 election will never be held accountable, and that is not acceptable.
Well, I mean, we're getting slivers of justice, like Mark Meadows is not able to move his trial to federal. I mean, everybody's crimes can't just, not matter just because Trump gets a pass, right? You can't just go, okay, then nobody's crimes matter.
Not if we care about the future of democracy. No.
I don't even know where to start with this. Yeah, Trump supporters popped open bottles of champagne and toasted Trump's promise to pardon all the rioters, including Ashley Babbitt's mother. This one headline: Trump risks significant blowback with decision on pardons for January 6 rioters. I just feel like we're not in any normal universe of predictions or punditry, are we? Like people going, "Oh, he won't do that because of this." Like we're not. With the laws of gravity don't apply anymore, do they? I guess a solid majority of voters oppose some of Trump's, obviously him pardoning January 6 rioters. One analyst says, does he do nothing, allow the court cases to proceed, risk angering his base, or does he abuse the pardon power to grant clemency to insurrectionists? Like 70% of the American people oppose pardons for people that obviously were violent and beat up police, etc., right?
Yeah, if he pardons the J6 defendants, the insurrectionists, that will be giving aid and comfort to an insurrection in anybody's interpretation of those pardons. So if he does that, I would like to say there will be hell to pay, but there rarely seems to be hell to pay for Donald Trump's crime and corruption.
This Mike Pence story, he and Karen are literally praying that Trump doesn't pardon the rioters. And he, when asked if Trump will go off the rails in his second term, he said the American people are just not going to have it. Are you paying attention to anything, Mike Pence? Like, you don't want, they still have their gallows. He's now, just to FYI, teaching political science at Grove City College in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. And was still thrilled with last week's election results. Said, I'm very encouraged by the early appointments of the president-elect. I think they're off to a good start.
Wow. And is he moonlighting as an assistant manager at Home Depot?
Glenn, you said something during the break real quick before we go that, a lot of people are saying that he's going to overreach, that people do not realize what they voted for, yada, yada. Another prosecutor said Gaetz is a buffoon. He has absolutely no qualifications to run DOJ. Can he wander around firing everybody? Yes. Does he understand how the Department of Justice works in a way that it would allow him to maximize its potential for abuse? No. Is he smart enough to figure it out? Also no. Is he charismatic enough to persuade insiders to help him use it effectively? Very much no. But Gaetz as attorney general will do petty, flamboyant, stupid things in clumsy ways. Some of these things will be very bad, but clown shoes are preferable to jack boots.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Clown shoes are preferable to jack boots. But let's end with a point of light, Steph. So part of my mission right now is every day trying to find a point of light amidst the darkness while recognizing we got a lot of coming darkness. Here's the thing. When Donald Trump had the Oval Office, House of Representatives, and the Senate, what did he accomplish? Exactly nothing. Did he build a wall and did Mexico pay for it? Nope. Did he? His marquee pledge, I will repeal Obamacare, the ACA.
Yeah.
Did he even do that? The answer is no. Did he do infrastructure? No. He accomplished nothing. Why? Because he's an incompetent imbecile.
Have you seen that?
And I don't think he's going to be able to do the damage he hopes to do this time around.
Have you seen the interviews with the Trumper? That's a couple of Trumpers that said, he's going to get rid of liberals, though they're Obamacare, but he's going to keep my Affordable Care Act. Thank you, America. Okay, in this last one, U.S. Supreme Court, a check or an enabler of a second Trump presidency? I know this. They're talking about, Thomas and Alito stepping down. Alito's already said he won't, but we're going to be right on this prediction, aren't we, Chris? He's going to replace them with those two E-Trade pickleball babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're smarter.
Do you wonder how young his next point he's going to be?
Yeah.
Somebody said, our friend Joe from Jersey said, where is Batman? There's no one coming to save us, Glenn. It's just... Yeah. I guess that's all you can hope for is people are, already seem to be having record regret. I mean, just based on everything, interviews, Google searches, you're like, anyway.
But you know what? You can never lose betting on Trump's incompetence to get done what he has promised. He failed before. He will fail again. And as always, we're the ones that we've been waiting for. And we're going to keep getting up and fighting every damn day until we right this ship. We have to.
And I posted several pictures of me molesting you at LA 60 Liberal Show back last Saturday when we were 25 years younger. And I once again compliment your wife on not only being gorgeous, but having an excellent sense of humor. Thank you.
Yeah, she's the best. Thanks, Steph. Love you guys.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right. See y'all.
All right, 51 minutes after the hour. This Malcolm Nance is here. No jingle. Hi. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. Go.
What the actual foxtrot?
Exactly.
What more can actually happen here this week? You know, I'm on the other side of the world, literally in the desert, to avoid this subject. And what do? They go, who would piss Malcolm Nance off the most? How about Tulsi Gabbard? Okay, this woman is widely considered by people in U.S. intelligence, U.S. Foreign Service, and most pundits who have been an asset of the Russian Federation. She is a friend and a apologist for the government of Syria after they gassed tens of thousands of people to death with nerve gas. She is a wild conspiracy nut who went around and you know, she was a reservist in the Army, so she went to the U.S. Army psychological warfare school down in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Fort Liberty, North Carolina now. And this is all her claim to fame. She's a nut. She's not getting confirmed. And if she does, I'm going to make not even a prediction. I'm going to tell you right now, every U.S. intelligence ally will shut off their flow of intelligence to the United States.
Of course.
They know it's going straight to the Kremlin. I don't know this. I didn't think we could get a bigger group of traitors, but apparently they're making effort.
Malcolm, I'm so astounded in some ways that your book that warned before the 2016 election that this was happening, Malcolm, it's all out in the open now. On Russian TV, they call Tulsi our friend. The Russians, meanwhile, the presidential aide said to achieve success in the election, Donald Trump relied on certain forces to which he has corresponding obligation. As a responsible person, he'll be obliged to fulfill them. Russians openly admitting they helped Trump win this time. It's all out in the open. They paid right-wing influencers directly to spread the same disinformation that Trump and the right wing was spreading. It's all out there now. And now here's a Russian asset that will be in charge of our intelligence.
Oh, well, not just that Russian asset. I mean, we've got, keep your eye on where Kash Patel lands. They're now talking about putting his director of the FBI, which means that he would go through and monkey wrench every investigation out there. Their guy who's going to CIA, we don't know much about him, but we have to assume that he's being put there to carry out a witch hunt. I'm telling you, let me explain some things, how things are done here. They will close ranks right now. They'll start doing what we call slamming safes, which means they will start moving information to where it can't be accessed by these people. And they don't do it because they're, I see these right-wingers going, oh, well, you're just now traitors to the country. No, they're the actual defenders of the Constitution. They're afraid that Americans are coming in there to steal secrets. You know what? I suspect he's going to pardon Edward Snowden and make him director of NSA at this point, deputy director of NSA.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but
oh my god.
Oh my God!
But
you know
is
what?
anything funnier than Matt Gaetz, Attorney General? Maybe. Can I just give you a shout out on your books and your prescience? Just this headline. This was, by the way, Jody. November 7th was the headline on this. Bob Woodward reveals top Trump intelligence official thought it seemed like Putin's blackmailing Trump. Now a warning. I mean, Malcolm, I don't know what to say.
How many years of warnings do I have to give you?
No kidding.
I mean, I started this in 2016, and we had Trump going Russia, and everything. Now we find out it's all true. And you know what's even worse? We're probably going to find out a lot more is true because people are going to start, as we say, throwing secrets out the window that will implicate a lot of people. Same thing with not just Matt Gaetz. Jesus Christ, I expect all of his indictment documents to suddenly hit the floor and details start coming out. Yeah. But, will they confirm them? Yeah. You know why? Because they're all a bunch of Trump rubber stamp sycophants.
Yeah.
The nuts are running the building.
I mean, I guess it's all going to be Russia stack from here on in, Malcolm, but Russia... Russia made an audacious public attempt to blackmail Trump, according to a military expert. Putin and his ministers are already trying to mess with Trump's head. Kremlin intelligence chiefs claimed in an interview Trump had relied, just this thing I said to you about, they're basically saying it, we helped him get installed again. They said this is mind-blowing psychological warfare. The Russians are basically telling Trump, we put you in office, now it's time for you to pay us back. still need Jasmine Crockett injected directly into my veins. Thank you.
But the reality is that what they want to do is more of this, is put people that are not qualified in and say, well, you know what, because he's my homeboy, he is qualified. That's not enough. That is what the good old boy system has always been about. And it's why we have not ever reached our maximum potential, because we do take the real qualified people out of the running because they don't bend the knee or because culturally their background is a little different.
Yep. Christopher, who said the people he picks have a little faith in him? The people he picks tend to be a grab bag of personality disorders who squabble and fight for power. He tends to screw them over when they annoy him, and they're all quite annoying. What I'm saying is that perhaps they will not be as bad as they could be because God in his wisdom has chosen to make these people weird freaks along the way to letting them run the place. Who said that?
Astro Jetson.
I don't know. I lost the first page. It's that prosecutor I was telling Glenn about.
All right. It could have been Astro Jetson, for all you know.
No, he could be the lawyer.
I'll go look for the first page of that.
All right.
Who said that would be the end of the United States Senate? If the Senate chooses to end its power of advice and consent and just allow the president to choose without any input, confirmation process, or approval of his cabinet, I don't know why we would show up to work. That's not democracy anymore. Who said that?
Dino Flintstone.
No, that's...
That's what he would have
Senator
said.
Chris Murphy.
Right, that's how he would have said it.
Yeah.
By the way, remember you said that John, he did not seem enthusiastic about...
Enthusiastic?
Uh-huh.
Recess appointments? No,
he is, apparently.
Yeah, where are we? 13. Yeah.
yeah.
Ripper.
So you've said that you would do recess appointments if it came to that. What's the threshold for getting to that point for recess appointments?
Well, what I said is, Brett, and I think this is that all options are on the table, including recess appointments.
And
Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but we'll find out fairly quickly whether the Democrats want to play ball or not. And I think part of it is getting these folks. We'll start having confirmation hearings as soon as the new Senate is sworn in January. President takes the oath of office January 20th.
Aha. Okay, so what do you say there exactly? Everything's on the table. All options are on the table, including sex traffickers, rapists, dead brainworm, lunatics. Okay, great, right.
By the time he takes the oath of office, hopefully a lot of those nominees will be through their confirmation hearings and will be ready to act on them on the Senate floor. And then it's a question of how much do the Democrats resist or object or try to block those nominations from going forward, and we're going to grind them out. I mean, we're just going to keep consistently moving, and we'll see what kind of cooperation we get, and then we'll, like I said, we'll make decisions about where do we go from there.
Oh, I see. So you're hoping the Democrats will be just as cooperative as you've been for all the, right? They would like instant cooperation?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Advice, consent. It's for C's. Okay, oh, God. You know I must love you to read Chris's right letters.
Oh, God. That's because I'm right.
I love you, but...
Uh-oh.
Chris is right about Harris should have done the Joe Rogan show. If part of the problem is disinformation and media echo chambers, would have been helpful for Harris to reach Rogan's very large audience to explain things like tariffs and what her policies were. Our side needs to do more shows like this and it need to show up on Fox News like Mayor Pete does. Jared from Pennsylvania in the very small Chris is right. However, I will say Jennifer Palmieri, senior advisor to I think it was Doug Emhoff actually, talked about the what do you call it? The why she didn't end up doing it. She said there was backlash with some of our progressive staff that didn't want her to be on it. That I do think was a mistake. And again, I don't think honestly, Chris, like one podcast was going to make a difference in this giant wave of disinformation. But I think she was great in every interview she did, and I think she would have been great.
Someone like Joe Rogan.
I don't know that all his douche bros were suddenly going to go, oh yeah, the black lady,
But he has an immense audience, which means that all of the other media would have taken notice and would have played sound bites from it all over the place. Even Fox News, even places like that. So it goes way beyond just.
I'm
the Joe
tiring
Rogan
of
show.
the coulda, shoulda, woulda, because also if my aunt she'd be my uncle. But anyway,
the media landscape is changing, and it has been changing.
I get it.
So
I think there's so many, like we were saying, it's just is the sitting vice president. It was in the middle of a huge campaign. She did almost every outlet known to man, every TV show, every radio show, every podcast, Stern, what's it called?
The Lady podcast, which is number 2 to Joe Rogan.
Right, the second biggest podcast to Joe Rogan. I don't know. Anyway. Malcolm Kenyatta said Trump does not give a solitary about the price of eggs or anything else hurting working families. All he cares about is being coddled and praised. Every cabinet pick shows how
Your phone's ringing, Stephanie.
dangerously true that is.
You know, you're a radio professional.
Is that the guy that's trying to kill you?
When you walk into a studio.
Potential spam would like to try to get on the air.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Someone didn't silence their phone.
I did.
No, Jody and I were just saying, who knows what the hell this lunatic is going to do. Like we were saying about Damien wrote and said he's not going to pardon the January 6th because he's like, what's in it for him? He only does stuff that's in it for him. Like he doesn't need them anymore. Like all these voters are going to find out in record time that all the things, he can't possibly do all the things he promised.
Right.
His people are already walking back the promise to pardon all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, he doesn't need them anymore.
Right. They said he's going to take them on a case-by-case basis now.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Greg Sargent said Democratic. To your point, Christopher.
Oh, my God.
I'm being so fair and balanced, aren't I?
What is wrong with you?
I don't think she's feeling well.
Usually I'm swimming upstream on this show.
I desperately need you.
Did you sleep well again?
Right.
No, I didn't sleep at all last night. I was watching the,
Hot Frosty.
Hot Frosty.
Well, that'll keep you up.
Which is very disappointing, I must say.
Did it end well for everybody?
Yeah, just the usual rom-com. He becomes a man and something.
He becomes a man like Pinocchio.
Greg Sargent says Democratic politicians and liberals need to quickly discover some way to engage in this Orwellian information environment. Otherwise, all the self-flagellation about messaging failures and policy changes won't amount to much.
Totally agree with that.
He didn't have any policies. We're not in a world where it matters. Policies are just brown people bad taking all your stuff. Like, lie. And so, yeah. Okay. Who is this one? Cy, I really miss Mamala and Coach. I feel like the idyllic American dream parents offered to adopt us, but we chose to live in the dark basement of the creepy uncle. It's true. And Ziggy said, I miss when I was young, wide-eyed, and full of hope. 9 days ago. Can you believe it was only 9 days ago?
I can.
Remember when we were 50 years younger, 5 days ago?
That's the day I went to my polling place.
It's your fault for voting too late. Hi, Karen.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And my fault for not falconing with Bobby Kennedy.
I put it all on you.
Fault. Yeah.
Do you know how much butterfly effect that would have
brought him to the light?
Yes. That could have had such a butterfly effect. You could have been first lady.
The falcon would have eaten the butterfly.
You could have been first lady of a brilliant administration, but no, you had to turn him down, and so he went down this other path.
I could have had a part on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
There you go.
What? Hi, Karen in Chicago. Hello.
Oh, hello.
You're sounding like Eeyore. Let's go. Pick it up, lady. Come on.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm thinking, like, how do you think it's day 1, day 2, day 3 after his American Carnage speech, 2.0, that Russians will be in the Oval Office? That's what I'm kind of expecting. I met Stormy Daniels last night.
What?
Wow.
And
how fun.
Did you get a number and can you give it to us?
When you say met Stormy Daniels, what happened?
So she was, she's doing a tour, and so she was in a local comedy shop, and so she did like a little meet and greet afterwards, and I had a nice conversation, and yes, I do have contact info, Jody.
Thank you. Please give it.
Thank you.
Yep. Wow. And she's, I'm listening to Glenn, and she is really hoping that Judge Merchan sentences him. She is having to drive around in an RV because she's all the death threats.
Yeah.
And this is really going to get real for a lot of people that don't have protections. And don't have a lot of resources, for protections. And so my heart goes out to her. My heart goes out to all of us. It's little comfort that these people are finding out now about what their vote meant. And it's just, but for me,
I know. Trust me, we all, you know what? And Karen, love you, sweetheart. I was going to say, we're all going to go through, you get used to the roller coaster. It's like menopause, manosphere, douche bros. Now you I know what menopause is like. It's just, you're going to...
Men get menopause.
Yeah, right. It's like a roller coaster, Chris.
Sure. Yeah.
Carlos Rocky tweets, Donald Trump isn't for everyone, just the people whose takeaway from It's a Wonderful Life was that George Bailey was a loser and Mr. Potter was the good guy.
Yeah.
Didn't people pay attention to their kids' books about who's a villain? I mean, this is the most dumbest, obvious villain plot ever. Bob Schooley, I think, is with me, is kind of maybe had enough of the post-election analysis. He said more post-election analysis about whether Harris should have used Latinx, which she didn't, than if Trump should have paraphrased Hitler, which he did. Thank you. I never heard her or any other prominent Democrat use Latinx. I've never even used that term. Okay. Dana Gould, who is hilarious, tweets, contrary to the comments of several posts, I did not vote for Kamala Harris because I'm an out-of-touch, cuck boy, gay slur, mental disability slur, ad nauseum. I voted for her because I've never met anyone, Democrat or Republican, smarter than I am, who thought Trump was anything other than a historical embarrassment, a chortling carny who gets people killed and laughs himself to sleep at night thinking about them rubes. When they lose, they're angry, and when they win, they're even angrier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah.
By the way...
Weird.
By the way, Tom, I saw that you left out bulimic on your bulimic ditch liquor tweet yesterday, just so I will think that I also might have gained weight and be fat now. So I see you. I see what you're trying to do.
Really?
Yeah. Mehdi Hassan's threads. The party that's obsessed with child sex offenders and is close to a cult that claims child sex offenders run the government just nominated a guy once investigated for allegedly sex trafficking a 17-year-old girl to be in charge of the country's legal system. It is beyond parody. What will this is why it's perfect The Onion brought InfoWars. Or is that going through? I don't know.
He's going to sue to not let it go through, but he probably won't.
Yeah. We are beyond parody. Okay. Aaron Parnas says the attorney, I was mentioning this, that for the teenager in the Matt Gaetz allegations, the calls on them, I mean, he knows more than all of us, by the way, is saying you've got to release this before you make him Attorney General of the United States. He said she was in high school and there was witnesses. So I can't, okay. What? Yeah, exactly. My point. Okay, let me go to.
You have a lot of
Lucretia.
calls. Wow.
I know Lucretia in Milwaukee. There's a lot of craws. Hello, Lucretia.
Hi. Good morning. I need like just a brief 2 minutes, if not less. But I just want to say I'm still on my I don't feel bad for your effing around and finding out tour. To the girl crying because her grandma, who wore her grandma's sweater to vote, and the mom ghosting her, which I think is hilarious as hell, to the gay black MAGA supporter whose ass is sore because he's not accepted by white people. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, did you see the, wait, I printed the, what is it? Oh, the Mexican-American gay immigrant who has undocumented family who voted for Trump. His op-ed in the Chicago Tribune. Hello, cognitive dissonance. And he said, his team is, I don't hate myself. Well, you're going to when your family starts getting deported. But
and the thing, too, I was going to say is that, and those who attended that Nazi rally in New York City, where you had that homely son of a bitch, Stephen Miller, also known as Count Whitula, said, America is for Americans, Americans only, and those who were not white still voting for Captain Ketchup, but also to the weirdo dildo who lists weights in his jeans, doing away with vaccines. Look, Justin Timberlake was bringing sexy back. This ass face is going to be bringing measles and polio back.
That's true. That's true. All right, and that's the one thing Crystal Boy agrees
You know what?
with that. What kind of douchebag works out in their jeans?
You know what?
Yeah.
If he gets a position in Washington, D.C., he'll get him out of my gym.
That's true.
So.
You. It's all about you.
It's for America.
20 minutes. I know how many people are like, oh, thank God Matt Gaetz isn't in Congress. Republicans hate him. Oh, my God. What's the serial killer guy again? Matt Wayne,
Mark Wayne Mullen.
John Bob Walton
Mark
Mullins.
Wayne Mullen wait, who are you talking about?
I don't know.
Which
Republican congressman that was talking
Mark Wayne
about
Mullen.
Yeah.
Mark Wayne Mullen.
Yeah.
Everybody hates him. Oh, my God. Okay. Let me just pause briefly.
Yeah, let's do that.
Hey, we have John Fugelsang and Fernand Armandi coming up. That's a lot of man meat.
Yes.
Angela V. Shelton has had a death in the family. She's back in Detroit. Send some love and light. Yes. But that's a lot of handsome man's meats coming up. This portion of the show brought to you by... It's tough times as a comedian, isn't it? You just got to laugh or you'll cry all day long.
We do. Much better this week. Much better than I was last week, that's for sure. My goodness.
I mean, I literally, I know, and we have to train ourselves that nothing's a joke. I was saying I was on a text chain with all my best friends. My friend Glenn's like, Attorney General Matt Gaetz, and we were all like, ha, 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 come on.
I know.
Which is what a lot of the reaction of Congress people was on both sides of the aisle, because they all hate him. But I'm like...
I had work therapy since I saw you last. So for those of you that know what I do for a living, it was a bit challenging. Obviously, I have the comedy, but excuse me, last Thursday we raised over $150,000 for healthcare for the LGBTQ community in New York.
Yay.
And then I went to Chicago and raised another $100,000 for the Human Rights Campaign. I have a gala on Monday in New York for the Stonewall Inn initiative that creates safe spaces for the LGBTQ community. And if you left the bad bird and you want to see me where the skies are blue, I am there as well at DG Comedy. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I just told Malcolm Nance I'm not ceding any space. He says, do not leave Twitter. I am not leaving. Because we're told that's how we got here, is we're in our liberal bubble and we don't want to be exposed to MAGAs and whatever. First of all, it annoys them that I stay. There's a guy that calls me a bulimic ditch licker, and I'm not going to leave him.
Would you? No, how could you? Yeah, no, I was thinking about that too. Yeah. This has turned into the biggest propaganda machine in the world right now. Why would we all leave and turn it into just a propaganda machine with no one pushing back? Yeah. So I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't want to be where only people agree with me. I mean, this is, and I'm not ceding the space to them. You know. Yeah. So, let's get into. Oh my God! Look at this. There's a tweet to annoy everyone. Tierra says, progressives claim Harris lost because she wasn't liberal enough. Here's the devastating reality. She ran on Biden's record, the most progressive agenda in decades, and voters rejected it. Then you have the Rolling Stone headline. Exit polls suggest Harris' investment in courting Republicans was a major misfire. While Democrats were busy making the case that Republicans should leave Trump, voters fled the Democratic Party instead or stayed home. One more. Under Dems, workers thrived. Obama cut unemployment 7.8 to 4.7. Biden cut unemployment from 6.4 to 4.1. There's a lot to analyze about 2024, but abandoning workers isn't it. And then finally, Mark Elias, who says if you're a Democrat who's spending time attacking Kamala Harris or her campaign rather than focusing on the fight ahead, you aren't helping anyone. Oh my God, are we done with the circular firing squad yet, right?
Please. And listen, you know I'm a Pelosi fan. I did not appreciate her stabbing Joe Biden in the front right after the election. Again, I'm throwing him under the bus. There's a lot of things that upset me. And I like I said, I think she's done a hell of a job in Congress, but that was completely unnecessary. It's not helpful. We need to figure out how we can collect ourselves.
Okay. Dino Badala, thank you, Dean. Just in, Pete Hedges. Investigation for sexual misconduct confirmed by the City of Monterey report. It won't matter. We know being abusive to women is what the bros that power MAGA love, and GOP senators are spineless.
There.
I feel like maybe it's like a bonus for the Trump. I don't. Okay. Grossman tweets, I never thought it would be this bad, says a person who spent the last 2 years telling people who warned it would be this bad to stop being so hysterical and plans to keep supporting it anyway. Santiago Mayer, our youngin', he was at Chicago Sexy Liberal.
He was.
Yeah. Said, the funniest and saddest thing about this is Donald Trump won on addressing inflation, and he still doesn't have a plan to do so. I'm sure we'll get it in 2 weeks, though. Yeah. Right? Well, along with the concepts of the health plan?
Well, the health plan and transportation and infrastructure.
Right. Oh, it'll be infrastructure week again
all the
soon.
time.
Yeah. Robert Reich said, wondering why food prices are still high. Little to no competition across the entire food supply chain allows for a price gouging free-for-all. Corporate monopolies get rich and we pay the tab. Does Trump have a plan to combat this? Of course not. I don't know what to tell you. Kamala Harris did. Did I mention that? Yeah. Okay. Ken in Phoenix real quick. Hi, Ken.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
First of all, I want to thank you for yelling into the megaphone to talk us off the ledge. It was getting crowded.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also, I woke up after the election as a disgusted veteran who put his life on the line for rights and freedom, only to have them sit on the grave of service people who fought and died to defeat fascism.
Yep. Yeah. I feel it. Got parents in Arlington. John Fugelsang, next.
Well, we've got this breaking news at this hour on a planned meeting between outgoing President Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump. According to the White House, the two men have now agreed to meet in the Oval Office on Wednesday. That meeting comes as Trump and his transition team are rushing to fill key White House positions, and sources tell CNN we could learn some of those names at any moment.
This isn't unprecedented in the United States, but it's super fucked up.
That's a great soundbite right there.
And Trumpism is going to take a long time to defeat. I believe it will be defeated because it is a cult of personality, and they always run out of gas at some point. But we'll see.
Yeah, they do usually flame out because they're so. They constrict, right? So they don't expand. They don't grow their base. This is a decidedly, an intentional choice that they've made. When people like Michael Steele and even Prince Rebus, whatever you say his name, they were all trying. Prince Rebus, whatever. It was not a prince. He's not a prince.
Riboflavin.
Ribbit. No, they were trying to expand the base, and the powers that be were like, no, we want to leave on this cult of personality thing, and that's where they're at now. And they usually do flame out. The difference is, and I'm a little bit obsessed with reading, now books by Timothy Snyder and stuff about how democracies die and tyranny and of the minority, et cetera. Where you're like, oh, the one fundamental problem here is that the Republican Party has all these levers of power and these ways to cheat, where they found all the cracks and the fissures and the little openings in the democracy that we have that is so fragile to begin with, and no one really seemed to ever want to occupy those spaces or exploit them as much as they do. But they have found it's almost their singular mission, right? Because they know they can't win legitimately, because the society has evolved to a point where all societies do, that their hold on power that was based on their birthright, the way they see it, is bound to flame out. But they're like, no, we've got a few other tricks up our sleeve.
Yeah.
And this moment in time also feels a lot like, to your point, it feels a lot like the reaction to the systems towards something better that you were talking about, right? They were like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. They're trying to do things that advance rights for Black people and women.
Wait a minute, we can have a Black president? Wait. hey, you guys, wait. And of course they would bristle at that. They're like, no, he had Omarosa,
He has black friends.
yes, and they have young black politicians. They have Byron Donalds, and they have but in the end, whenever they're talking about they're talking about white people. And it's I don't know that they get it. A lot of them have couched it in religion. A lot of them feel that he's defending Christianity, which is hilarious to those of us who, like you and me, who grew up, in the New York City area.
Yeah.
No, he's not a Christian. He doesn't go to church. He barely knows any of that. He's made that bargain with evangelicals, and he and I thought actually once they captured the Supreme Court, they'd lose interest in him, but no, they have maintained their interest in him.
Yeah, because now it's a war against wokeness. It's a war against others, and that's the thing that, again, going down those rabbit holes of history and seeing the patterns here, where maybe it doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme. Like, that's the key, right? Is in othering and making sure that there's always sort of this enemy or some threat to you that keeps you constantly like, but I need a protector, I need a strong man, I'm scared, I don't understand all this stuff. And that's where they come in. And that's been sort of so elemental to them leaning further into this cult of personality thing. And he's their warrior, which helps them literally vote against their own best interests, but also the thing about religion is so true. They bend themselves into pretzels to believe these things to accommodate their support for this person who embodies all of the 7 deadly sins in one,
one guy. Yeah.
One guy, right? I call him one saggy senile septuagenarian because I love it. I freaking love alliteration. I'm a dork. But like the things that they've had to do, and these were cults and dictatorships in the falls of democracy, they really do overlap, and we're like living it in real time, and it's Donald Trump.
I know. It's just like, you couldn't do better than that, yeah, it's so funny, it's sad.
Fun fact, you said police report Matt Gaetz will not be the first high-ranking GOP child molester of the 21st century.
Well,
there's good old Denny Hastert.
Right, we forgot about him.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Don't
go.
forget the Hastert rule, guys. Let's enjoy the mugshot cabinet for as long as we can.
Here's a sliver of hope. You threaded, in fairness, hiring unqualified sycophants for government positions based on obedience historically tends to always work out really well. I don't know what to hope for anymore, John, because he's literally doing everything he said he was going to do. Right. But I have to hope this. We're already getting these record number of just like interviews and social media of people that have regret, didn't know what they voted for. Like, oh my God, you have to hope that this overreaching is going to, and incompetence.
So what you're saying is it's collapsing before it even starts, and people are still depressed. Come on now, come on. It's time to shift from despair is privilege, okay? If you're rich enough that you could be on the couch and depressed for a year, God bless you. The rest of us need you back in the fight. What Donald Trump has begun this week is a process he's going to continue through January 20th of getting all of us knocked out of our stupor and back into the game here by having the most unqualified DEI cabinet of selfish grifters.
Thank you, DEI. I'm so glad you said that. Right? They ran on. She's just a DEI.
They're all DEIs. It stands for deviant, extremist, and experience. That's it. They're all despicable extremists with no experience.
This is, I have to say, you're right. And they're already having all this infighting over there, John. Like, MAGA doesn't like Rubio and dear God, almost right? And they all were like sending death threats to Thune and whatever the MAGA people because they wanted Rick Scott and
yes.
The coalition.
It's almost like having a bunch of corrosively selfish narcissists on the same team doesn't work out that well long term. Yeah. Yes. I want to congratulate Marco Rubio for being the next fired Secretary of State. And I want to remind everybody Recess appointment is how Matt Gaetz meets his dates during lunch period.
Yeah!
Hey!
That's my favorite
Listen,
joke of
hey,
yours in a
Matt
really
Gaetz
long
was
time.
only trying to keep young people out of the hands of young people. Okay? Okay? Don't judge all minors based on the ones who have sex with Matt Gaetz, please.
But to your point, two political scientists said the coalition of voters Trump assembled this year may not be durable in the years ahead. It seems to have great potential for a crack-up. He's made so many promises to so many constituencies of disaffected voters that trying to carry them out could wind up hurting the American economy. Yeah, if he does what he says he's going to do, then yes. He might try to carry out his promise of deporting millions of illegal immigrants, a project that would not just wreak havoc among families and in communities, but also cause economic chaos or tariffs. Unlike Republican initiatives, tariffs, if successful, would work by imposing short-term costs and prices in order to achieve long-term gains in jobs from otherwise endangered industry. It's the short-term costs, another round of inflation, this time imposed by Trump, that might endanger the Republican coalition. Trump's dream of historic Republican realignment may not survive his second term. I mean, people are already saying, John, we were saying this morning, this is like America's Brexit already. People, the day of, were like Googling, what's a tariff? And wait, can I change my vote? And did Biden drop out?
Yeah, it's almost like when 9 million smart people stay home 4 years later, the dumb people get their way. And we're all realizing that we're going to have to deal with another 4 years of Vladimir Putin as our president. Now, I want to apologize, Stephanie, in advance.
Yes.
The entire sex worker community for the amount of time I'll be referring to this new cabinet as whores. But they all share the same pre-existing sedition. And Matt Gaetz is the first ever guy hired to be DOJ because he was so dirty they had compromat on him. And that's the only reason. Donald Trump would own the Department of Justice by controlling an easily blackmailed stooge. Now, everyone's despair, and I get it, but you got to remember one thing. This is still the same narrative that's been playing out for my whole life. The only narrative I've ever seen in American politics is the Republicans pollute it and destroy it and are corrupt and wreck it, and then a Democrat gets called in to clean up the mess.
Yep.
My whole life, Jimmy Carter got in there because of Nixon. You got Bill Clinton there after 12 years of trickle-down didn't work, and he balanced the budget and had a surplus. Then you got W, who I still think might be the worst president of all time, collapsed the entire economy. That gave us Barack Obama, who reduced the deficit and gave us the lowest rate of uninsured people ever. That gave us Man Baby, who trashed the whole thing, which brought us Joe Biden, the most legislatively accomplished president of my lifetime. So just imagine how progressive the Democratic field's going to be in 4 years, because you know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to crash. People are going to get hurt. Everyone's going to wake up. They're going to bring in a Democrat again to clean up the mess while the arsonists heckle the fire department.
Yeah, we keep saying we've been here before. Get your take on Jen Rubin said he could, for example, exact draconian across-the-board tariffs, begin massive roundups and deportations of law-abiding dreamers, repeal the Affordable Care Act and major bipartisan legislation passed under Biden, enact a new round of massive tax cuts for big corporations and wealthy individuals. But in doing so, he would make himself extremely unpopular, induce economic and social chaos, create political problems for his party in the midterms. And by the way, she said the price tag could be in the hundreds of billions for this deportation that he's promised everybody. A dragnet of this side would require a sweeping police state, deprive Americans of millions of workers, upset economic progress, create images as devastating as those we saw during the child separation debacle, which you recall he eventually had to abandon. Trump can choose to follow his radical ideological backers, or he can choose to be politically and economically successful. He can't do both. I mean, it's
okay. There's two things you got to remember here, okay? Which is, and this is why it's okay, liberal people. The two worst things about Donald Trump as a person will probably save the country. The two worst things about him as a person is he lies to anybody who trusts him, and he's a complete incompetent. Okay, so all of these draconian plans he wants to do, keep in mind, there's no budget to round up 11 million people. They have no system in place to round up 11 million people. Our economy would collapse. We'd lose like a quarter of the agriculture workforce. And they're going to go into hospitals and schools and workplaces and family homes and drag people out. And guess which brown person has papers and which one doesn't? He lies to racists for votes. The wall was a scam. I'm not saying he's not going to hurt a lot of people, but his incompetence is something we can't lose sight of. He's going to screw it all up. Don't forget. We get to laugh at these awful people because none of this stuff they're doing is going to work. It's going to hurt people, and it sucks to have empathy, but don't despair. These people are still numbnutses.
Thank you. And as I've pointed out over and over, someone that knows something about landslides, this was not a landslide. It's going to be like 1%. So
50% of the vote. Yeah. I mean, he's running for 4 years, Steffi, and Vice President Harris is running for 100 days against Man Baby running for 4 years, and she finishes within the margin of error. Don't ever let any Republicans in your life say this was a landslide or a mandate.
Yeah. And I still come back to disinformation is our biggest problem because they won on a solid wall of lies. A lot of people are on the Chris Lavoie's right side who says it's all our fault because liberals just talk down to people. However,
yes, that's good because I'm glad conservatives don't talk down to people.
Who talks down to people more than Donald Trump?
The way conservatives reach out for the marginalized among us is so inspiring. Oh, yeah.
I just want to run this past all you guys because this cognitive dissonance made my head explode. This was in the Chicago Tribune. It's an op-ed commentary. I'm a Mexican American who voted for Trump. No, I don't hate myself. I'm a proud first-generation gay Mexican-American with undocumented family in the United States, including a mother who was previously deported to Mexico, and I experienced homelessness. I'm everything Democrats claim to support, right? Wrong. Well, he might not hate himself now, but when his family starts getting deported, I think he might have some different thoughts. When he gets denied the right to marry, possibly. Voting for Trump, he said, does not make me racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, or any other...
It does.
Ist or ick I've been called. I, along with more than half the voting public in America, am sick of the self-righteous and label-obsessed left alienating us over differing opinions.
Yeah.
The party spent the last 4 years...
I'm tired of racism. I'm tired of people playing dumb about lies about innocent migrants being illegals who are reading pets. You're racist. And if you're not racist, the racism and lies are acceptable to you. I don't know what the right word for that is.
This is like the Latino, this guy from the Latino family that was interviewed, John, after that said, well, he doesn't mean our undocumented relatives. They're not criminals. And then on cue, Thom, what's his name? Hobag?
Homan.
Hobag. Thank you, Chris. Yes. On cue is like, oh, yeah, we're deporting. Yeah, even if you're legal, we're deporting you if you're in the family. So let me just finish this. The party spent the last 4 years demonizing men and blaming us for all of society's ills, which leads us to Latinos. Democrats, we are not Latinx. We're Latinos and Latinas. Stop trying to change our language and our culture. Kamala Harris never used the word Latinx. I don't know anyone that does.
I didn't hear her talk about trans people once on this damn campaign. These guys live in an information bubble. Tomasky has a great piece in the New Republic about this, and about how what we have to realize is Fox News has permeated all over this country. People have grown up on it. They believe it's real. They believe that President Trump is fighting for you, and they believe that Vice President Harris is stupid. They are groomed. And the only thing you can do with weapons-grade stupidity is resist it, try to reason with it, try to de-escalate it, and ridicule it when you have to.
I don't stay in the bubble. I click on Fox News articles. I watch Fox News clips. I know what they're doing over there. So anyway, let me just finish this. Seeing my undocumented family members who've been in the U.S. for more than 20 years work, pay taxes, buy their own homes with zero benefits, then watching millions of new immigrants skip the line with government-funded help only inflamed me and the other Latinos like me. When my mother came to America as a single mother of two, she did not get any benefits. The election became personal. It's about my family. Right, until they deport them because they're not going to...
You're reading to me a gay Latino who voted
gay Mexican Latino with undocumented immigrant family.
Voted to ship his own grandma away. All right.
And then just let me finish this. He said it's also rich to have Democratic leaders such as Michelle Obama, whose personal worth is tens of millions, that rich people take more than their fair share, sandwiched between billionaires J.B. Pritzker and Oprah Winfrey and Mark Cuban. Donald Trump's a billionaire. So's Elon Musk. Like, what?
He's literally mocking the rich people who are fighting to have their own taxes raised.
Thank you.
Okay? That's how amoral this little twit is.
Okay. He finishes, I'm very proud, because this is where you come in, John. Personal comedy, Jesus. I'm very proud to be a Christian, gay, Mexican-American who voted for Trump. The political,
where's the
and then he
Christian
says
part?
he finishes the political pendulum will swing toward Democrats again. It's inevitable. Single party rule is never ideal for America. We love compromise. Yeah, because that's what Donald Trump ran on, is compromise. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This election, voters canceled the wokeism of the extreme left, and now the person
there
who's
you
taking
go.
care of us,
There you go.
listening to us, the regular folks, is the soon-to-be 47th president of the United States.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead. Also, he's Christian. Go ahead.
Yeah, boy, I'm so enriched by having had that guy's thoughts in my brain. All right, so we got. In other words, if racism doesn't bother you, you might be a racist. If lies from the first black president isn't really one of us to the Haitian migrants or eating the pet, if that's acceptable to you, there's a word for that in the dictionary. Don't tell me that you're a Christian because you supported Trump. I say this every week on your show. Right. Ask these people, make them prove how ignorant they are about this book they wave as a prop and refuse to read. There is no Jesus-oriented justification for Trump support. Christian, yeah, there's two groups. There's Christians and there's Jesus followers. Christians is a big club with a name, doesn't necessarily mean they have anything to do with Jesus. And there's no teachings of Jesus that Jesus commands you to put away your sword. He commands you to pay your taxes, welcome the stranger, to have individuals and nations take care of the poor, take care of the sick, be kind to those in prison, turn the other cheek, no violence, no revenge, no retribution, no death penalty.
Yeah.
These people don't give a rat's ass what Jesus fought for. They have a Messiah they like better, and he's a racist clown from Queens.
Yeah. And fear, by the way, and fear-mongering, dividing, racism, doesn't only work on white people. I mean, he convinced, obviously, a segment of, and part of the Latino men thing, a lot of Latino women that I know say it's a macho thing. Mm-hmm. They just didn't want a woman to be president. But also, if you can convince them, not you, you're better than those other brown people. Because, and even people with undocumented relatives are like, oh, he doesn't mean me. He means those other, only the criminals, right? And yeah.
I want to remind everyone the majority of African-American men and African-American women voted for Vice President Harris. But let's be honest, America doesn't have the manhood to elect a woman yet. Yeah. We're not man enough for a woman president yet. Yep. So, look.
Well, John, I would just end on that point, and we're late, but, it's just people go like, we were woke, you and I, all of us in 2020. What's the difference? A white man ran. I mean, you can't tell me that doesn't have anything to do with it, the racism.
No,
and
and by the way, woke means anti-racist, okay? Anybody who says woke derisively is tired of people complaining about bigotry. 2020, we were all at home during a plague watching the news all day. This was not a Republican landslide. This was a Democratic stay-at-home drop-off in turnout. That's what this was.
Yeah. And by the way, sexyliberal.com, seriously, Bob said if you could bottle last Saturday, you can drink from it and be re-inspired. You guys are
drunk.
But you guys are so brilliant, so funny, my sexy really liberals. I'm telling you, I keep saying this. Jimmy Kimmel, who else? Colbert, SNL. A lot of people, John, are I guess woke, but they're really funny and they're doing some of the best work of their lives. They're not punching down. You don't have to. Nobody would accuse sexy liberal of being politically correct and staid and preachy.
Every generation of fake moral people finds a new way to smear kindness and empathy. Okay, we were bleeding hearts when I was a kid. I heard all the time. I'm like Jesus, politically correct, which just means be less of a douchebag to people.
Yeah.
Virtue signaling, social justice warrior, now it's woke. They find ways to sneer at actual morality and pretend that they're the good guys. Woke just means you're anti-racism, anti-bigotry. Yeah. And together, Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz, I think, are going to be proof that totally different kinds of rapists can still work together.
That's magic.
And the Senate never gets to have consent.
That's magical.
It's perfect.
We love you. I love you, John Nichols, saying goodbye. Progressive Warrior right here on Progress on Sirius XM.
Yes. Sirius XM Progress every night. Tomorrow night I'm playing at Lake Erie College in Pennsylvania. I'll see you there.
Wow. All right.
All right. Love you, honey. 50...
they have to do raffles to raise money to buy notebooks. I mean, this is the kind of flow of disinformation. It's not just the disinformation itself. It's how is that disinformation getting to the people who really should know better than to be repeating that stuff. And that's what we have to interdict. That's what we have to interrupt that flow. Because it's either we stop the entire Red Hat entertainment complex, which is going to be problematic. I don't think you can put that down. I mean, it's not something that is even feasible. But what we can do is start to interrupt that flow of disinformation from the weirdos to the normals.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this is it. Alan Lichtman, who, they call him the Nostradamus, right? He's been right about it. And I say he was right about 2000, because, again, that was the beginning of who could have seen the Supreme Court just appointing. Right. Al Gore obviously did win the popular vote and would have won the presidency had they continued the count in Florida. But anyway, he said he blamed Elon Musk and the explosion of disinformation. His keys that he uses have just been historically accurate. You know why, Bob? Because, like you, to your point, they're based in fact. It's on about the actual facts about the economy and X, Y, and Z, which, again, has been provably fantastic under Joe Biden. The best looking human in the universe, Fernando Armandi.
Yeah.
Next.
And I think it was on Morning Joe, and it had to do, I think maybe about Ukraine. I don't remember, but it was something, I said, wow, she's really got charisma, and she's really well-spoken and really just she's a real political athlete. She's just, I was really impressed with her. And I remember thinking she beat the crap out of Trump.
Yeah.
And I tweeted that in 2019, and I just retweeted it the other day. I called it 5 years ago. And I think the thing about her is, and I was reading something that Joan Walsh wrote yesterday. I think, she has been inconsistent as people perceived her. She's been criticized. She's been, and during her first couple of years of VP, she didn't have necessarily her best moments during the 2020 primary campaign.
Yeah.
And somebody quoted in this Joan Walsh piece basically said, well, now, she realizes she has to just be who she is.
Brat.
And brat. Yes, brat. And that's, that kind of authenticity. And I'm saying, that is an amazing contrast with J.D. Vance, just to illustrate it. There is an authenticity about her when she gets into her happy mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And cackling, it's great, but that's like, she's a human being. She's real. And
Yeah.
I think I think that is going to, I mean, I think that is going to ultimately put the final, it's going to bury Trump, because Trump has only one, he has only one mode, which is just grievance and attack.
Mm-hmm.
It is exhausting. It is exhausting.
But she's super triggering to him, right? Like she's got to be super triggering to him.
She's refreshing, and he is exhausting, and she's going to trigger him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's saying crazy stuff even more than he was saying last week.
The laugh thing too.
He was back to Hannibal Lecter again. I mean, so why does he keep going back to Hannibal Lecter? I can't even figure out what the point is to Hannibal Lecter. I mean, there was speculation the other day that he thinks that an insane asylum and political asylum are somehow related because they both have the words asylum in them.
Yeah.
I mean, and not therefore, that's why he thinks of, I cannot figure out for the life of me what the point he's making with having Hannibal Lecter over for dinner.
Yeah, but you know better than anybody. The weird thing that he does, he said that first in the Jersey speech he gave down in Wildwood, where he was 10 bazillion people were there, right? That was so you could see.
Yeah, there were like 4,000 people there, and he said there were 107,000.
But he said it that first time, and what he does so often is when something gets attention, he said Hannibal Lecter, he said Hannibal Lecter. Every speech, every time. Oh no, I'm going to say Hannibal Lecter,
and people go
Lecter.
Right. No, that's the thing, is he has no actual sense of humor, because he's to actually have a really refined sense of humor. I mean, you see these comedians like Kimmel and all these people on television. They're the smartest people you see on television.
Yeah,
they really are, because they have this way of putting things together and seeing ironies that other people can't see, and that takes not only great intelligence but a great sense of empathy and a great sense of an understanding of the human mind and soul. He has none of that as a sociopath, which is why he doesn't actually understand humor, which is why he's not really funny, which is why you never ever actually see him laugh the way Kamala Harris does, for example.
Right.
He doesn't have a sense of humor. What he knows is he knows how to insult people. He knows how to attack people and mock people, but not because it's not necessarily in a funny way, because it lacks any subtlety or irony, but he thinks that's what humor is.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's more like a power play. He doesn't, and then when he sees people laugh, he doesn't know why they're laughing. He really doesn't, unless he's insulting somebody and mocking somebody and putting somebody down.
Are narcissists insecure? Like, because that's where people get people say to me, how can they be insecure and full of themselves at the same time? And then, so how is that possible?
It is, but that's the essence of narcissism. Okay. Narcissism is when somebody, it's caused by basically just deep insecurity that somebody either is, I don't know, born with maybe, or just develops as a young child. And they deep down fear that they are not good enough. They fear failure. They fear that people are mocking them and making fun of them. And they overcompensate by being, by demeaning people, by trying to exercise control over them, by being, doing all the things that we see narcissists do. And that's why they're very, very sensitive to criticism. And in Trump's case, I mean, there have been books written about this. There's a great book written by Dr. Justin Frank, a Harvard-trained psychiatrist here in Washington, D.C. And then there's this amazing book by Mary Trump, who actually saw all this firsthand, where basically it was because he had an abusive father who was sociopathic. And that was part of, and he had a mother who was very remote. Yeah. And that combination leads him to, he's a 5-year-old still.
Yeah, he's rocks at babies.
He's a child. He's like, and it's all about him. It's all about, he never learned how to be an adult and how to be a human being.
And then there's trauma from when he was very young that he said he just stuck. He's just stuck there.
Yeah, and I think he was wired a certain way too. I mean, there's a description of him, of a neighbor remembers him when he was like 5 or 6 years old, throwing rocks at a toddler's playpen in a neighbor's yard. Okay. And Trump tells the story about him he assaulted a teacher once, and he got sent to military school because his father found, a set of knives, not kitchen knives, but weapons in his bedroom. That's why his father sent him to the New York that New York school, whatever the military school. Yeah, no, I mean, he was never, as I say in these ads, he was never right in the head.
I mean, what has been your reaction since then, and et cetera?
Well, I mean, candidly, depression, depravity, right? all of the stages of grief. I think I haven't quite gotten to acceptance yet. I think that's coming. But look, I think you're right. The polls certainly did indicate that there was a good chance that she was going to win last Tuesday. Although they also were, Stephanie, stubbornly close, a lot closer than I think any of us were comfortable with. The fact that the race was even close at all, given how unhinged and how off the beaten path Trump had acted over the last 3 months, and especially 3 weeks, I think was a worrying sign. But look, it is what it is. He has won. These are dark days for our country. I am unfortunately not going to come on here and tell you that everything is going to be okay, because I don't know how things are going to be. And unfortunately, if past is prologue, I think they're going to be really, really, really bad.
Can I say this is why people like this show better than mainstream media? Because Fernand's like, well, I'm sniffing glue. How about you? People don't try to, TV it up for our show. You said this election, the most critical, important in our lifetime, was fundamentally about what kind of country and what kind of people we actually are. And I'm afraid now we have our answer. We always said that, right? It's not about who he is. We know who he is. It's about who we are. And, your other tweet was so interesting. You said, forgive them, founding fathers. They know not what they do. I think they do, Fernand. I mean, that's what's depressing.
In some respects, I think they do, Stephanie.
Right.
But when they actually see what's coming and the horror show and the nightmare that's going to become reality, remember, these are the good days right now. Joe Biden's still the president. So,
this one is still funny.
About how bad and anxious and sleepless your nights are. Wait 2 months from now. Then it gets real fun. But I don't think they're going to realize what they have done until it really starts to hit the fan. And that's going to happen within the first 2 to 6 weeks of when he takes power again.
Yeah. So, Fernand, I'm about done with my analysis of circular firing squad and who's to blame and what went wrong and yada yada. But we've got Chris Lavoie here. There are Chris is right and Chris is wrong T-shirts available at StephanieMiller.com.
And the Chris is right outsells the Chris is wrong ones.
Well, this is why Donald Trump is going to be president. Again, I still claim disinformation is the biggest problem. It's the right wing, not just Fox News, not about right wing radio and podcasts, because again, I keep saying it's not like anything we've ever been through, is it, Fernand? We didn't lose on issues. Americans still agree with progressive. Abortion measures still won in state after state. He won on a solid wall of lies that, I don't know how you suggest Democrats counter. I mean, other than what we did. No, Haitians aren't eating dogs and cats. No, FEMA's not taking your money and giving it to illegal immigrants. No, they're not doing transgender surgery on your kid in school without your permission. Talk to us just what your take was on all that.
Well, look, I don't think you're wrong in suggesting that the information landscape that we're now in is just completely anathema and anachronistic to what Democrats have been used to basically since the founding of mass communications, right? And they need to blow that up, Stephanie. They need to understand that there are millions upon millions of voters that are living in self-created silo information bubbles where they're curating and they're getting specific types of information.
Yep.
They're unfortunately not all listening to the Stephanie Miller Show. I mean, I wish we could kind of...
That's America's biggest family.
That into everybody's consciousness. We'd never lose an election ever again. But the fact of the matter is, there are certain people that, A, don't believe anything out of the mainstream media, even if it's correcting and presented with facts. There are certain people that have no access or interest in engaging.
Yeah.
So Democrats just have to understand it's a brave new world, in a lot of respects, a scary world. And I think the Republicans have understood that for quite some time. That's what the whole creation of Fox News was about in the late 90s. The idea that, We can create our own reality.
This is what we've been screaming about for actually more than 20 years that we've been doing this show, saying progressives have to, invest in infrastructure. We're like a teeny little speck compared to.
We have an infrastructure. It's just that the Democratic establishment doesn't support us.
Yeah.
Republican establishment supports their infrastructure with ad buys and gifts and money and all of that.
Yeah.
Democrats don't do that with our infrastructure.
I have another Chris is right letter to inflict on all of us. But here's my point for now. I just wanted to get your take because well, first of all, I think there's a lot of factors, the media and the Biden is too old and that gave, Kamala, 90 days to run a campaign, racism, misogyny. Chris contends it's only because stuff costs too much and people think Democrats talk down to people.
Among other things.
Well, thank you. Ezra, or as I call him, Urza. And I'm going to always call him that now, agrees with you. He said he blasted liberals who downplay voter concern about the economy and crime as all just Fox News spin, telling Democrats they need to get out and talk to some people. I thought Kamala Harris did that. I thought Joe Biden did that. Joe Biden walked the picket line with union workers. Kamala Harris had a bunch of plans that would help workers, right? I mean, a bunch of things, housing, corporate price gouging. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't think there's any question that at least in walking the walk, both Joe Biden as president and Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for president, they talked that talk and they walked that walk. The problem, Stephanie, is not enough people got that message. And listen, I mean, I think it's a fair point to make. Joe Biden's skills as a communicator are less than phenomenal.
Right.
Say it to be charitable. And I really do think that, for those of us junkies who are watching every twist and turn of the campaign, we of course saw Kamala at the rallies and in the debates and in all of her policy speeches and interviews talk about this stuff. But that still doesn't get to a huge swath of voters who are not junkies and living their everyday lives. So I think that's what we were up against in some respects.
And Hernan, we keep talking about the Google searches. It just tells you everything you need to know. The day of the election, biggest Google search, did Biden drop out? Day after the election, what's a tariff? Can I change my vote? I mean, we were talking about this is like our Brexit. That people are like, wait, what did I vote for? They don't know, they don't even understand what a tariff is. Let me just last one. Sarah says, Chris, very upsetting subject line. Chris is right. Hi, Steph. Chris is right and brilliant, and here's why. Many of us progressives have seen it for a while. While we align with progressive causes, we've been watching liberals condescend to conservative voters as low-education voters, chastising people for not using correct terminology, telling them the economy's fine. While all of those might hold some truth in some cases, some progressives do come off as elitists when they say things like that. Coming from a rural area, I know many folks with no post-high school education who feel ashamed about it when talking to progressives. Donald Trump, as abhorrent as he is, made those people feel included when he attacked liberals. We need to learn from this, not saying you do this, but Chris does an amazing job of bringing this up on your show. It needs more attention. Well, first of all, let me say, Sarah, and secondly, you have some good points. Now, that's the thing. It just, I guess it's so hard, Fernand, when you I get it that it can be a vicious circle because you go, okay, so you voted for abortion rights and then you voted for the rapist that took your abortion rights away. Okay, you voted because of Gaza for Jill Stein, and now, Gaza's going to be a parking lot because Trump told you he was going to let Netanyahu finish the job. I mean, there's part of it. You're right. It's hard because then if you call those voters stupid, then here we go again, right?
No, but I mean, you cannot take the responsibility away from the voters. And I think that's why this result has been so devastating, not just for us here in the United States, but those watching around the world. Because what we really need here is a big mirror for 350 million Americans, because we did this time. You can't blame the Russians by themselves, although I think that they were acting as bad faith actors, and I think they were doing stuff to put their hand and their thumb on the scale. I think there were other components of this too, but American voters who had an opportunity to compare the first Trump administration to this Biden administration and said, no, we want more of the chaos, we want more of the treason, we want more of the corruption, the criminality, said so, Stephanie, where he won the popular vote. That's the thing that blew me the most away. Yeah. I always believed there was a chance Trump could win in the Electoral College. I think I said so on the show. What I never thought possible was him winning the popular vote. Yeah. And that's why I think we all need to look in the mirror and realize, in a lot of respects, we do get the government we deserve.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to face the consequences that we wrought on ourselves over these next 4 years, and unfortunately, probably longer than 4.
Oof. Yeah, the burn it all down people voted for the arsonist, and now they're going to get their wish. And I was just going to say quickly, when we're not done counting votes out here in California, so I think it's actually going to be very close in the popular vote. So we shall see. But your point is well taken. All right, we have more of the world's best-looking human. 20 minutes, 20 minutes after the hour. You did your part. You did your part on the purity voters. Carlos, and we've all failed miserably.
We all failed, yeah. Now Mr. Huckabee is going to be in charge of their affairs. Woo, good luck.
Yeah, who believes Palestinians literally don't exist. Yeah. That's what he said.
We tried to warn you, but yeah, the blame game is weird. I still maintain that I'm back. I don't know if I'm back fully, but...
yeah, none of us are.
Yeah,
don't you wish you were the person that you were last Monday, remember?
Yeah, I was very supportive. I was very into it. I go through moods. Depends on what drugs are working, you know. In a very dark sense, I just feel like democracy was like the boy that escaped Dahmer's apartment and was well on its way to working again. And then the Republicans are the cops that brought him back to Dahmer's room.
That's a great and horrible analogy.
I know, it's very dark, but in my darkest sense, that's what I feel like. We were rid of him. Biden won. We were going in the right direction. And now we're John Candy in freaking Planes, Trains. You're going the wrong way.
You're going to kill someone.
See, I went dark series to happy movie.
There you go. No, you're absolutely, all these analogies are apt. I mean, Frangela said that. It's like, your mom's going back to the abusive drunk that beat her, but she's taking you with her, I mean, it's...
Yeah. And again, I don't think there's anything any candidate could have done to win this election. I think, as I saw, maybe it's a tweet based on your show, somebody from Venezuela who said how their leader was put in power with oligarchs. With all the right-wing misinformation you're talking about, with Mark Maron talking about podcasters normalizing Trump's behavior, there's nobody that was going to stand a chance against that avalanche of misinformation. So no Bernie Sanders. This wasn't about leaving the working class behind. No. This was about hate, fear, racism, and it always has been.
And as I said, Bernie voted for every single one of those bills that helped working people that Democrats passed, and then took credit for them. And now everybody's here to try to throw blame and protect their image or legacy or whatever it is. Yeah, I love this. Mary Trump's headline was, "The media want to blame Kamala Harris. They should take a look in the mirror." Ellen said so much this. They successfully managed to blame Hillary Clinton and thereby avoid any self-analysis or corruption, but that shaggy dog won't hunt anymore. It's so counterproductive, Carlos, all of this.
Yep. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. By the way, I know you're particularly excited about Health and Human Services Secretary Bobby Kennedy, possibly.
Oh, boy.
You retweeted...
Let me help you with that bear.
You retweeted Annie, who said Calgary stopped adding fluoride to its water in 2011. What happened? The need for intravenous antibiotic therapy by children to avoid death by infection rose 700% at the Alberta Children's Hospital. I mean, oh my God.
Yes.
I just watched a clip of him saying that, COVID was genetically engineered to spare Jews and Chinese people. I'm like, oh. But here we are.
Yeah, it's a confederacy of dunces times 5. It's really the darkest, grossest circus tent administration that we're probably ever going to see, worse than the second one. And again, the fact is, don't blame this on Democrats. Blame this on Republicans that did not have the courage after January 6th to say, no, he's done. That's it. We're all voting and impeaching and convicting.
I can't hear this beating up on Democrats when they did zero self-reflection when he lost the popular vote twice in a row. And, they voted for a 34-count convicted felon rapist that called every group, every name in the book. And we're supposed to go, what's wrong with Democrats? I mean, it's just...
And again, their platform near the end of the last couple of months was not about, leaving the working class behind. We're going to be pro-union. We're going to raise the minimum wage. It was about Puerto Rico is an island of garbage.
Yeah. Whatever's wrong, hate, prices, fear. It's all brown people. All brown people. They're taking your stuff. They're taking your hurricane relief.
They're coming to kill you. Yep. Yeah, your rights will be taken away. This country is going to no longer be going to recognize it. So, yeah, I don't buy that it was about economic policies, leaving the working class behind, or anything Bernie Sanders says. I'm sorry. I think he's clinging to an ideal that's just gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, Ann said, I'm hoping we don't all die of polio and COVID and everything else that Bobby Kennedy Jr. won't allow us to be vaccinated against. And avoiding COVID for 3.5 years. I've had it twice since October. I never... State wants to snuggle into Fernando Mondi's manly chest. Hello.
God.
Carissa.
Hi, Stephanie Miller. Oh my goodness, thanks for taking my call.
Oh no.
Men don't hate women. They fear us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she's right.
That's plain and simple. They fear black people, they fear women, and old white men want to take control of everybody. Also, civics has been taken out of high school. Civics.
Yep.
The people that voted for Donald Trump on the economy, they are stupid. The half of Americans that did vote.
Yeah, I'm sorry, honey. Your phone. Your phone is in and out here. I don't know
how
whether
money
it's my.
works.
Oh, okay, and now
how
my
to
drop button
build
isn't
wealth.
working.
And that is exactly what the Republicans wanted. Sorry, I am
handle.
beyond scared.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you. Oh, sorry. Something's
there. It goes.
My phone system.
Now it just crashed.
Fernand, that's again, and then we get called liberal elites, right? But I think it's not just the disinformation. Why are so many people prone to believe such obvious lies and ridiculous conspiracy theories, right?
Well, I mean, this has been a constant in human history, Steph. I mean, the base passions of appealing to people's fear, to people's, innate, unfortunately, racism, and even in some respects to their misogyny, that stuff has always worked. People are always looking to rationalize why maybe for them they're not living their best life or things aren't as great as it can or should be. And unfortunately, in this day and age where you have less and less regulation of public comment, so to speak, stuff that's on the mass media and in the airwaves, these things insidiously start to become reasonable. And you have this, I was talking about this just the other day with someone else. It's now this bizarro thing where people see the mainstream media as the thing not to be trusted. Oh, they're just giving you the mainstream spin. They're not telling you the true facts. Right. Whereas this unregulated speech and content, be it through YouTube or podcasts or what the like, that's the, quote, real truth. So it's just this dysfunctional, contradictory idea that unfortunately has impacted millions of our fellow citizens.
Yeah. And I know they're in there gloaty, like we own the libs. But it was one wealthy liberal tweeted, guess what? I'm still going to be able to afford stuff. You're not, and then you're going to realize that we were fighting for all of us and fighting for you too. But it's not like I'm going to take pleasure in that because we're all in this boat now. More Fernando Mondi, Stephanie Miller Show.
Had a few people reach out, so I figured I'd jump on here and just let everybody know that was me driving President Trump's garbage truck. There's me with Vivek right there, but I gotta say it was an honor and a privilege to drive Garbage Force One. President Trump is just a normal, everyday guy. He hopped in, no problem. He looked at me. He said, give me one of these right here. And we don't have one of these. We have one of those. So I honked a couple times, and he laughed. He said, how about we take this bad boy through McDonald's? And I said, sir, I don't think she'll fit in the drive-thru. He said, it's all right. I used to work there. And he turned to me and he said something, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it. He said, this is really sticking it to Joe Biden. I said, yes, sir, it is. So, Joe, consider this a message to you, because you called us garbage. In order to prove that we aren't garbage, we got a truck that hauls garbage. Does that sound like something garbage would do? Would be to drive around in a truck that hauls garbage? I don't think so. You made a mistake, Joe. You can't call a group of people garbage unless it's meant to be funny. And in that case, those people need to stop being so soft. Maybe get a sense of humor. But if you call me garbage, that's offensive. And you should consider what it's like for people's feelings to hear that. You might as well call me Oscar the Grouch, because you done pissed me off, Joe. And if being a patriot is what they're calling garbage these days, then yeah, I am garbage. Because I'm going to show up to the polls wearing a garbage bag to show you what us white trash can do. And they're going to rename Election Day Garbage Day, because we're going to be taking out the trash, which is you. Even though I'll be the one wearing the garbage bag.
Representative Dan Goldman, great state of New York.
Donald Trump, as you point out, Chris, has joked, quote unquote, about many different things, including, as I remember, in 2018, he joked about pardoning himself, and then that became completely normalized, and everyone just expected him to pardon himself if he won this time. The same thing has been happening. He has mentioned this over and over and over again for years now. And his jokes are not jokes. Nobody takes them as jokes. They are trial balloons. They are very intentionally designed to soften the response and then to normalize his unconstitutional and anti-democratic goals.
Yep. One thing I don't have any patience for is anyone that is shocked by anything he does at this point. I love this. The New York Post, who just endorsed Donald Trump, delivered a scathing rejection of his pick of Bobby Kennedy to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, calling it a move that breaks the first rule of medicine: first, do no harm. He told you he was going to put Bobby Kennedy in charge. The New York Post now says, we fear the worm that claims he ate some of his brain years ago is contagious. There's been an outbreak at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, well, that's cute and funny now, isn't it? Sorry, Fernand? Are you?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, like you said, I mean, these people now that are saying, oh my God, I'm so shocked. Why is he doing this? Why is he going? It's like, oh, where have you been these last 10 years?
Yeah.
And by the way, Steph, we're going to see more insane people nominated. I mean, I'm waiting for the Marjorie Taylor Greene announcement to drop.
I don't know what's a joke anymore. Someone said Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene for the Department of Education. I'm like, why not? I mean,
it's not a joke, and this is these are fascist tactics, by the way.
Yeah.
To kind of paralyze you and overwhelm you with this sense that you think you're going crazy reacting to this stuff, and it's just a test of loyalty. And that's why I think this reaction has been maybe even underwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, who was it? John Bolton that said, oh, I thought, Tulsi Gabbard was the worst pick ever until Matt Gaetz. And then until Bobby Kennedy. It's going to be like this every day. It's shock and awe or whatever he's doing. Jeff Duncan, the former Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia, called his cabinet nominations historically the worst. Matt Gaetz, the worst pick in the world. Again, why anybody would be surprised, I don't know. Do you?
No, and then here's, I think, the other lesson for Democrats. Hopefully, maybe it'll get through them this time around, Steph. But Republicans, to their credit, when they have power, they know how to use it, and they don't care about the consequences. And this is where I think there is a legitimate criticism of the outgoing administration now. Joe Biden inherited this government days, Stephanie, after Donald Trump led an insurrection to try and overturn the election results. Mm-hmm. And really just did not do what was needed to be done to prevent us from getting in this situation again. And what we're seeing now in Donald Trump and what these actions are, he has the power, he's going to use it, and he's going to dare anyone to stop him.
Yeah.
And I think, fortunately, we need to be a little bit less gun-shy as Democrats to use power to help to fortify democracy.
Yeah, and Fernand, you've heard the analysts going, "Oh, he won't. They won't get through. So and so won't get through." Or Matt Gaetz won't. I mean, John Thune already flip flopped from yesterday to say, "Oh, yeah, maybe recess appointments." I mean, can you put anything past him? Like this Republican Party is so spineless. Lindsey Graham said Matt Gaetz, and then a day later he's like, "Oh, give Matt a chance." Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's go ahead.
Well, I mean, we saw that spinelessness, Steph, in the first Trump term from 2017 through 2021, and that was at least not maybe full, but there were a lot of resistors in the Republican Party then. There are none now. They've all been purged. They've all been they've all resigned or they've all been defeated at the election. So no, there's not going to be any Republican resistance. And to say that is an act of rationalization and copium.
Yeah, I mean, that a grown man like what's his name, Troy Nell's Republican, literally says out loud, if Trump tells us jump 3 feet high, scratch our heads, we're going to jump 3 feet high. Mm-hmm. And this is the party calling liberal guys, what are they calling, betas, soy boys, whatever, that is just completely bent over for this one guy, right? I mean, it just doesn't, they're the most beta males ever. They do whatever he says.
They really are, and I'll tell you one other thing. I mean, look, the test now of courage for the Republicans, let's start with the Republicans in the Senate, right? Stephanie, if there were any of these people left, and people always like to say, oh, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, okay, switch parties, pull a Jim Jeffords. give the Democrats, try and get Democrats closer in that Senate. That's why this Bob Casey seat is so important. If Casey can manage to come back and win that recount seat in Pennsylvania, and then all of a sudden you get a Collins or Murkowski to see, okay, we've gone now too far. We can at least crawl and scratch back one check on the process. That's how you judge these Republicans, not by anything else.
Yeah. So during the break, you brought up, just because we've gotten to such a point of normalization, you were talking about the Trump visit to the White House. And, of course, this is part of it, right, is that we always have to be the good guys. We got to, we're the ones who believe in elections and peaceful transfer of power. And, but you were just talking about him smiling and laughing with Trump. And dear God, I hate to agree with Maureen Dowd on anything. But she wrote that too. Why did it feel so nauseating? But then she goes on to blame Biden. I'm just, I'm not in the blame Biden and Harris and Pelosi and this person and that person. Because then she went on to say, it was hard to watch because he was confronting a monster of his own making. To lay this all at Biden's feet, I think is not right either. She said if Biden had not bogarted the presidency, if he had not run for a second term, the Democrats would have had time to put together a stronger centrist ticket with governors of swing states. Trump's gloating chariot ride up Pennsylvania Avenue might never have happened. And then she went on to say she must imagine that Biden had a frisson of satisfaction because in his view, it ratified his contention that he was the only one that could have beaten Trump. For now, I get that we're going to have the postmortem, but I'm like, oh my God, some of this is so counterproductive, because that's like you got people, Pelosi saying some of that same stuff, and then other people blaming Pelosi, and it's just, I just talk about that a little bit because that's who Biden is. Of course, he was going to invite him to the White House, but I get what you mean. It makes you sick to your stomach to watch it.
Look, let me be very clear on this because I've thought about this a lot since I saw the images. I have no problem, Steph, with President Biden asking Donald Trump to come to the White House. I think that was appropriate. I think it was within the traditions, and I think it showed that President Biden, is trying his best to show a peaceful transition of power, which is an important message to the world. The problem I have with it, Steph, though, is doing it with all of the grins and the backslappings and the portraits and the photos where everybody's all happy-dappy. It completely undermines the message that both President Biden and Kamala Harris, and really the entire free world, were saying about Donald Trump, which is that he's a fascist, he's a threat to democracy, and it renders that rhetoric, Stephanie, into that unserious rhetoric where people just think, oh, they're just playing a game. I wish President Biden would have used that meeting to look Donald Trump in the eye when the reporters were there and saying, I am here and you are here because this is about democracy. Yeah. And you have to respect the Constitution like I have, like you refused to do when you left office the last time. He didn't do any of that, and it was a missed opportunity. I don't blame Biden for his presidency. I think he was a historically productive president. Yeah. I am extremely disappointed with how he chose to act on those photographs and in that, bonhomie that he showed, which I think really undermined and hurt the message for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've said it for years. We need more alpha liberals like you. We need to learn to fight differently, as Chris is saying, in this new information ecosystem. I like how Karine Jean-Pierre shut down a Fox Business reporter who asked if Biden apologized to Trump for labeling him a threat to democracy. She said the president is always going to feel obligated to be honest with the American people. What he says still stands. He said, you've heard that from the former chief of staff, John Kelly, and others. So, thank you. I love they like to say, like, oh, Biden said that. Like, it wasn't every person pretty much that worked with Trump has said the same thing and more. Mm-hmm. America's Hitler, on and on. That's his vice president, J.D. Vance. I agree with you. And I think Biden has made that point, that we believe in the peaceful transfer of power. But I think you're right. It's just on top of how much he's been normalized and sane-washed by the media. It's felt like another, it's just a normal, election, right?
That's exactly right. And again, Joe Biden swore an oath, like every president before him, including Donald Trump, did, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. And Stephanie, Trump is already telling us things that he's going to do in a couple of months. He hasn't even taken the reins of power yet that are constitutionally dubious at best or constitutional crises at worst. So I think Biden has an obligation to speak out to that as the commander-in-chief today. And he has that responsibility until the moment he walks out of that office for the final time.
Yeah. Now, I said it yesterday, Vermont. It feels like Russia has, taken us without firing a shot. Someone said, why have a middleman? Just put Putin in charge as director of national intelligence. By the way, so Melania was not there at the because she believes in
individual liberty.
Mm-hmm. But it's just
I made him smile.
Hey!
So classless. But anyway, this just made me mad too. So First Lady Joe Biden called Melania after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and Melania Trump said she took the initiative to call me directly. I do question, however, whether Jill's concern was genuine, as a few days prior she referred to my husband as evil and a liar. Well, if the jackboots fit. But then Melania Trump blamed negative comments about her husband from Democratic leaders for the assassination attempt by 2 Republicans. She also asked if the concept of respect has become antiquated and slammed Democrats' harsh words. Oh my God. Talk about zero self-awareness, right?
Oh, look, number one, and I know this for a fact because I've talked to some of these people, they think that acts of decorum, acts of concern, acts of respect, Steph, they see those as signs of weakness. They do not judge it as you would or any sane, rational, empathetic person would. They also are the masters of holding us to standards that they themselves don't ever or ever believe in. And again, I think we have to understand the types of people we're talking about. And sure, we're trying to set examples for our children and for others in the world, but don't ever think that these acts are going to have any kind of an impact on them, or in some cases, sadly, their voters and their supporters.
Yep. Larry the mailman in Minneapolis, you're on with Fernand.
Hi, I know you can hear me because I'm loud and proud and ready to fight.
Yes.
Okay, here's the deal.
And drunk.
2 things. Justice and journalism were not present. I don't want to hear any firing squads. You guys are doing a good job at getting us off this firing squad thing, but it's inaccurate. I believe Merrick Garland has 70% of the blame and the national news media, the rest. They have normalized him from day one. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
How can people know anything? He's never asked anything.
Yeah. I read the CNN Chiron this morning, Fernand, that said, Trump voters may find out, but that his plan for inflation is going to make it worse. It's like, I've done that story, I don't know, last week, the week before last week, right? This is the things we were screaming, but, they didn't hear that stuff.
No, I think, Larry is correct to a certain extent. The media was derelict in their duty here. And, so much of what we saw, and not just this year in the campaign, Stephanie, but really after January 6th, you would have thought that would have been the disqualifier for him. And every story would have said Donald Trump, who tried to end American democracy and incite an insurrection, that just kind of faded away as he rose up again. The Republican
the other headline: Muslim voters already regretting their vote for Trump, saying they got played. I'm just like I guess that's the thing. Again, not to talk down to people, but this is the biggest liar in our history. Nothing he's ever said practically is true. Nothing he ever promised in the first term did he do, which is why he got fired in the first place, right?
I know this is going to sound harsh, and as we're getting into the holiday spirit season too, but I have zero sympathy for anybody that voted for Trump this time around. I did in 2016.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, even in 2020, Steph, but after January 6th and what we've seen now from him for 10 years, if you voted for Trump, you're going to get what you deserve, sadly.
Yeah, I agree. All right, more Fernando Mondi, 48 minutes after. take my country back. It's funny. Okay, one last one. Listen, whatever place you're at in your cycle is fine. Rita is still drunk, and that's fine.
Oh, well, I mean,
we don't judge.
Sure.
Aloha, Steph. I am still drunk from 11:05, so please excuse any gaffes, typos, or really bad swearing. Mahalo for helping me get through this crap fest. Well, you and, okay, a lot of absolute vodka. Chris is also drunk, and he is in solidarity with you.
Yeah.
Even though I have a podcast subscription, so very cheap and so very worth it, and one of the ways to support democracy and progressive media in America.
StephCast.
Yeah. Being an old lady, I get up at 0400 hours at dark 100 to watch the show on Free Speech TV from Hawaii.
That's early.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
First, I've shut off all media except you and your beloveds and comedians. This has helped. Second, my response to all things in person MAGA is you and go to hell so you'll be with your dear leader someday. That's fine. Now for one favor, please don't play his voice. Quote him if you must. Just don't make us listen to that giant piece of orange crap. I fear I will lose it completely. Much aloha to you all.
You get sound bites,
Aloha
lady.
and mahalo to you too, Rita.
Unfortunately,
I think that's a good. I think we'll just stick with my impression and Carlos's impression of Trump.
Stephanie Miller.
Oh, look, Cokie from the Cokie and Gummy Morning Show, Don Jr. Will take a surprise job outside the administration. He will be doing his grifting outside the administration at an anti-woke venture capital firm that invests in right-wing companies.
Oh, that sounds
including Tucker Carlson's blah, blah, blah. I know this may seem like my particular issue, but I think it's not. I think it's America's for none. Do you think this maybe finally will give Democrats a wake-up call to invest in, progressive infrastructure? Because, again, I don't know what else to say about, if you don't think this election was about disinformation, I don't know what to tell you. Because if you can win on a solid wall of lies, something's gone wrong, right?
Yeah, I think if it doesn't do it this time, Steph, it never will. Obviously, the lack of an infrastructure is a problem. The other big concern is on the horizon. Not to scare any of our California and New York peeps listening to you now, but by 2030, the next census, Steph, they anticipate that 8 electoral votes will be lost from California and New York. And those are going to go to Florida and Texas, which means that even if Kamala Harris would have won the blue wall states this time around, it wouldn't be enough. So I say that to remind everyone that the Democrats need to do this infrastructure everywhere.
Yeah.
The idea of just saying, well, we're going to try and go for, 24 states and we're going to cede everything else. They cannot do that anymore if they ever hope to reclaim the White House and with that power again. But that's, of course, only if we have free and fair elections again. And Steph, I'm just not certain today, for the first time in my life, that we'll say we're going to have those.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why Dan Goldman put the bill forward about that he can't run again, because he's not joking. He said it like 15 times now. Do you have, faith this Supreme Court won't go, oh, yeah, maybe for this president, never mind about the 22nd Amendment, right?
Oh, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, can we please start taking, I know he's a pathological liar, but like the worst stuff that Trump says, can we start taking him at his word?
Yeah. And how many times did we say there's no guardrails this time? Like, whatever he says he's going to do. I was just going to say quickly, one of our only hopes, we keep talking about this, GOP aide predicts big fights between Trump and Republican lawmakers. Well, that's already started. And also they're estimating that his promise of mass deportation would be about $88 billion annually to fund such a program.
Okay, are you ready for, oh God, I hate to end on bad news, but you ready for the bad news? Exactly. Give me the Price is Right porn over and over again. Steph, they are trying to wreck the economy on purpose. That is by design. That is the fascist playbook so that they can create chaos. They can create a population that is dependent then on the ruling power, on the ruling state. That is all for the course. Of course, they're going to spend whatever they have to spend and do what they have to do. That's part of the game plan.
And, Jody was just saying, they're selling, Your Body, My Choice T-shirts. And we were saying, you have kids, you have a little girl, and again, man, I feel for parents that have to explain to their little girl that a rapist can become president, but they can't right now, right?
No, my little girl, and she was inconsolable, as was my son, on the morning after the election. And Steph, when they asked me the question that I'm sure all parents were asked, Daddy, what happens now? That to me was the worst moment because I couldn't answer the question.
Yeah. Fernand, we love you. That's all we know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You are awesome.
See you soon. Fernand.